Okay. Intro podcast topics.
Podcast.
I quit vaping, and I was like, oh, I'll have these like nicotine toothpicks. You know, I was like, okay, so in case I get a craving for nicotine, I'll just. And then I like quit the nicotine toothpicks, and now I just don't have any nicotine. And I gotta say, it's really fucking easy. Actually, I think that like part of me not wanting to like quit like smoking was I believed a lie that I had been told my entire life, which is that it would be difficult. Because people are always like, oh, dude, that shit's really hard. Like I tried, I couldn't do it, I failed. Like, oh man, you know what? I really want to stop smoking. And I was like, oh fuck, if it's hard for all of these people, it must be so hard. People have like actually told me. Have you heard that? Unironically, they're like, it's like, dude, quitting smoking is like quitting heroin. It's like heroin and like it's like the same thing. And I was like, oh God, is it going to be the same? And right, I was like, yeah, this is gonna be fucking difficult. And then it turns out all you have to do is just stop. It's actually like the easiest fucking thing in the world. It's like you just don't do it anymore.
Is it possible? That it's different for everybody?
No, I don't think so. I think everybody's experience is going to be my experience, and I think that like if you're trying and failing, you're just like weaker than I am.
Yeah,
that's kind of as
I get older in my years, I think the one thing that I've learned about the human experience is that it's the same for everybody.
It's the same for every single person. Dude.
I think this podcast proves that directly. The human experience of experiencing media and content is definitely the same, and we see everything eye to eye because all of our brains function in the exact same way, which means that we have the same experiences and think the same things, right?
Yeah. No, for sure. Well, and and if anybody's brain did hypothetically function different than mine, I think you'd probably want to change that. I think you'd probably want your brain to function a little more like my brain functions, because then no one would be smoking. And wouldn't that just be a net positive for society?
Every brain would not be able to retain enough momentum to be able to hold any real thoughts for any moments of time, because they would immediately go away the second you shifted elsewhere.
Right.
And then that old version of yourself is just gone because you forgot. Right. So hopefully we want people that grow as human beings and retain their knowledge and information as they become better humans. And it seems like you're just going to stay kind of plateaued as the same type of human for the rest of your life. I think that's kind of what I've gotten.
Yeah, well, but that's because I've like already reached the peak. It's like I grew and adapted as a human until I was like, okay, I figured it all out. Here it is.
Yeah.
This is the...
And at the peak of humanity, you said, I'm going to start a podcast where I watch all the Marvel movies. That's the peak of fucking intelligence.
There it is, dude. Yeah, I need to share this gift.
Hundreds of millions of years of evolution for this.
I do sort of think about that sometimes, where I'm like, man, isn't it crazy that like millions of years ago, some like creepy lizard thing crawled out of the primordial ooze, and then it just kind of ended up with me sitting here watching Marvel movies, Like it kind of feels like a waste, you know what I mean? I'm like, I should be doing something like better.
Yeah, I mean, they were just at some point hitting each other with rocks on the head.
That's true.
So I don't know that this is much different from that. I feel like we've kind of kept it balanced.
No, we've definitely evolved from hitting rocks on heads like IRL. We're just doing it, metaphorically now.
Yeah, well, and also, I mean, if you really think about it, it's like we're the descendants of the people that were hitting the other people with the rocks. You know what I mean? Because it's like those bloodlines all died.
Oh, yeah, sure.
You got hit with a rock in the head, you're fucking out of here. So we're all like rock hitters at this point, like thousands of years ago. Yeah, like our ancestors were the ones doing the skull bashing.
So I think the point to take away from this whole intro and conversation is the peak of humanity is this podcast.
I would agree. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's it. That's an intro.
Okay.
And that's the podcast.
And that's hey, what's up, everybody? It's nicotine-free Christian coming at you live. Quit smoking.
And this is Dan, who never started in the first place.
I'm John, a.k.a. Huge Jacked Man.
And this is... Cape Shit. Yo, what's going on, everybody? Hello there. It's me, Christian, back with another exciting episode of your favorite podcast, Cape Shit. Today, Black Panther, the movie, is what we're going to be talking about on this podcast. Tell your friends about Cape Shit. You already know that. Leave a 5-star review on our podcast. I think we told everybody to do that. Like, we've been telling people to do that. I feel like we only have one 5-star review.
No, that's not true. We are now up to 5.
Okay, we have 5-star reviews.
We got 25 stars.
Okay.
Heyo.
Yeah, what the fuck?
And that's just on Apple Podcasts,
and that's
by the way.
just on Apple Podcasts. Yeah, I'm just saying that like all of these episodes get several thousand downloads every single week. So the least you could do would be like, so if 1% of you go and you like this podcast, then we can start shipping our numbers over to MeUndies or perhaps BetterHelp, maybe some. Yeah, Squarespace, maybe some sort of wacky Kratom company where it's like, hey, teenagers, you can get drugs shipped to your house, whatever. And then we can start doing that, and then we can start making the real money, all right? Which is, frankly, the only reason I think any of us are really doing it. We only have like 5 episodes left until we're quote-unquote done. Yeah. And the fact that we haven't locked down a Kratom sponsorship yet is frankly fucking annoying. To me, personally, I don't like that. I figured we'd already be there by now.
Yeah, that's a good call. We have, in fact, next week's episode, or next second week's episode, is Avengers Infinity War.
Wait, is it really?
Yeah, we're hitting Avengers Infinity War next, and then Ant-Man and the Wasp, Captain Marvel, and Endgame.
That's wild.
So we've got actually 4 episodes left after this.
Gotcha.
And that's
we made it. Good job, guys.
Well, I guess we have been doing this for like almost a year or something like that.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Yeah, I still sort of feel like, and we don't, whatever, because we're here to like talk about movies and stuff, but a little spoiler, a little teaser for the audience out there, for all you Cape Shit heads that are listening. We have internally, okay, and again, not going to give too much, but like maybe the podcast isn't done after we finish up the Avengers stuff. Maybe we take a hiatus and we hit some sort of season 2 with something else. I don't know. We've discussed it. It's been fun. I've actually enjoyed this experience. I just don't know if we can like hit anything as epic as like the MCU, because it just lends itself to this format so well,
It might have to be like Star Wars or something.
Yeah, but Star Wars sucks.
Yeah, but see, I don't even care about Star Wars that much.
Yeah, I mean, the MCU sucks, but Star Wars is worse somehow. Than the MCU.
I won't disagree
That's
with
a
you.
statement.
Yeah. I mean,
That's
it just is. Like, it's like Star Wars, like, is not great. I mean, and I really don't like the MCU, and Star Wars somehow, and I watched, and plus there's only like 6 of them, right? Or like 8?
Well,
there's like 8 Star
9
Wars, and you're done.
There's
9.
like all the spin-offs that are out, so it ends up being like 16 or 15 or something like that.
Dude, I try. You know what? And people were like, "Hey, you know what? Even if you're not a fan of Star Wars, hey, what's up? This is a Cape Shit. We talk about Marvel movies." But people told me like, even if you're not a fan of Star Wars, you gotta watch The Mandalorian. Oh, you're gonna love that Mandalorian. Even the
amount of people
as not like, and it's like, frankly, I'd recommend it to anyone, not just Star Wars. Man, that's like the most boring fucking show, dude. Yeah. And I swear to God, if I have to see Baby Yoda in one more place, I'm going to like intentionally T-bone every single car with a fucking Baby Yoda stick. I'm done. I'm over it, dude. It's like worse than Baby Groot somehow.
Oh wow.
Somehow
these are strong statements.
I do not like Star Wars. I'm not like a Star Wars guy,
Yeah.
No, I can't objectively comment on any of that. That's
and I'm not a fan enough to disagree with you in any way, shape, or form.
There you go. So that wouldn't be a fun podcast. It's like
exactly.
like we all hang out and just dunk on Star Wars.
It would just be shit.
I mean, that would be fun.
That's what we'd call it.
Fucking star shit.
Yeah, just see how upset we can make a bunch of fucking virgins on the internet.
Oh my God. Okay,
which are canonically fans of Star Wars. I mean,
All right. Well, that was a interesting tangent.
Yep.
Let's get into the movie.
Give us a stats.
Before we do that, though.
Give us the stats, Dan.
Hey. This I think is gonna really make Christian happy because I know he just had such a great time with this
Right, of
movie.
course.
I know that
Loved
he really
it.
enjoyed it based on
Super
his history
fun.
of Marvel movies. This was released in February 16th, 2018 and made, you ready?
I'm ready, yeah.
You want to guess? I'm going to
guess.
Spider-Man made 600 million, I think, by the way.
I'm gonna guess this
600,
movie
700 million.
made $1.2 billion.
1.3
Damn,
Jesus Christ.
billion
But I was close. Hey, check that
Well,
out.
You were
Not
close.
bad.
Yeah.
It was the highest grossing film made by a black director and the 9th highest grossing film of all time, now at 15th as of today.
Gotcha.
But when it debuted and went in theaters, it hit the 9th highest grossing film of all time.
Word.
However, it is very widely stated that many critics and fans did point out that the CGI in this movie was not good.
No.
There were a lot, and I mean,
Yeah.
I even noticed a majority of the CGI in this movie being really terrible. Man,
Yeah,
that
like
was not
visually,
good.
it maybe had like a couple interesting moments, but then then you have like it's like the entire like scene with the rhinos that kind of like happens at the end of the movie. It's like the entire time I'm watching it, I'm just like, what the fuck is this? Like, it's like why?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, without getting too far ahead of ourselves here, the final fight of the movie, the climax
Right.
of the movie, the biggest part of it with Black Panther and Killmonger
Yeah.
was 90% CGI
Yeah.
and terrible.
Right.
What a bad place to have bad CGI. But I like this movie.
Yeah,
Yeah.
of course you do.
Yeah,
well, of
that
course.
tracks.
That's why
You
you're
would
here.
like this movie. This is like just before we get into it, here's my thesis statement for this entire podcast right here. My thesis is that this is like the most generic, formulaic Marvel shit that you could ever possibly come up with, really. So it stands to reason that Dan would like this because Dan likes the Marvel formula, and that's
But I don't. No. But I will say I don't like it just because of like the story. I get that it's very formulaic.
Yeah.
But I think that it's from a like art and settings perspective, it was just different than anything we have gotten in the MCU before.
And I'll agree with that,
I think
yeah.
I also noticed that when I watched Wonder Woman on the DC side. Like Wonder Woman was just different from like a settings and characters perspective of like the first 25 minutes of the movie is completely just women the entire time, but they're all like Amazons competing in, like crazy events and stuff. Like it's just different. You don't have movies that have those settings and those types of characters in it. And so that throughout this movie was really interesting. The art direction, some of like the ceremony parts, the design of the waterfall for the ceremony, like
I
lot of the
thought
design of this
that was
movie stuck
probably
out.
like peak to me was like waterfall. Like that's probably like the highlight of the entire movie was like that. Yeah, with the whole sort of like ritual going on and all
Yeah.
sort of like the colors and the diverse cast of characters like therein.
Yep.
Like for sure. That was kind of cool. And I thought like, I guess if we're talking like visually, I thought Killmonger was cool too. Like
Dude, Killmonger's
Visually, yeah.
Saiyan outfit is the fucking dopest costume design that Marvel's ever come up with.
Yeah. No, like
Yeah.
legit though. It's like it's a very sort of Vegeta-esque.
Yeah.
Yeah. And one more note here, by the way, is this was the first superhero film ever to receive a Best Picture nomination at the Academy
what
Awards.
the
Yeah,
fuck?
no way.
There's
dude.
no
Get
shot.
the
I'm just
fuck
saying.
out of here, dude.
That is the facts of what happened.
Yeah.
So
That's cap.
there you go. Great. We start the movie here with a little monologue from T'Chaka, I believe, telling the story of the meteorite that crashed and struck Africa that contained vibranium, affecting the plant lives. They talk about the 5 tribes. And that the heart-shaped herb was born from this vibranium that crashed into the planet, so that essentially everything within Wakanda is based on this vibranium. The plant life, the clothing, and other things as we see their weapons as we go through the course of this movie, and that Wakanda decides that they are going to hide themselves from the world to prevent the vibranium from going all over the world and causing potential warfare and other things.
Yeah, the vibranium is a very Loki staff-esque thing. It kind of just does literally everything. It's like a weapon, and it's a power source, and it can heal you, and it's like a transporter, and it's a bomb, and it's a shield. It's everything. Any conceivable thing that you need covered by vibranium. It's all good. And don't really ask how, because it doesn't, it's just sort of present and it does these things, and someone out there understands it, and it's probably T'Chaka's sister. She knows, and you don't have to.
Oh, you mean Shuri?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Shuri knows. T'Challa's sister.
T'Challa. Oh yeah, because T'Chaka's the dad.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And then we head to 1992, Oakland, California, and that is very close to where I live.
Yeah.
So
right
what's
in my
your
backyard.
Address? Yeah. So my address is no, that's fine. I actually live in Tucson, Arizona.
Oh,
Come
hell
see
yeah!
me.
What's your address?
Oh, okay. Also, Sterling K. Brown is in this. He has some really good acting roles in other shows and movies and things. I forgot that he was in this. He plays Njobu, who's Killmonger's dad.
Yeah.
Right. And one thing whenever I see his face, I just remember that he had this episode of Brooklyn Nine-Nine. I don't know if you probably never watched that show because it's made by one of the creators of The Office.
Yeah.
So I guarantee you've never seen it.
Well, okay. Actually, are you ready? You're ready for this? I watched the entirety of season 1, and I wasn't really a fan. Didn't like it that much.
Yeah.
Continue.
I'm not surprised.
Yep.
Anyways, there was this one episode they did that was just the whole episode was Andy Samberg and Sterling K. Brown in negotiations, talking about a crime that Sterling had committed, and he was trying to get him to admit it. It was a really good episode, and I think it even went up for an award for TV stuff. But anyways,
an award for TV stuff. That's very prestigious.
Well, the TV stuff award is just things you get.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, it's just people decide it, and then you get stuff.
Yeah, 100%.
That's the way it works.
Just the way it works.
Yeah.
So we're in Oakland, and crime is occurring inside of a room.
A heist.
We got guns, we got maps, we got housing projects, and we got two fellas inside of the aforementioned projects, and they're gonna be committing some crime, and that is until some bald women with spears appear at the door.
The Dora Milaje.
Yep.
Which is the army of Wakanda, and they are checking in first before King T'Chaka comes in as Black Panther, and we find out that this is Prince Njobu and that they are brothers.
Yeah.
And that they were sent out across the world as, I think they call them war dogs, to kind of infiltrate different countries and understand what these other countries are doing.
But it's sort of this weird thing where they're kind of sent out to infiltrate different countries and then just kind of sit around and be oppressed. And that's which is also maybe sort of where the tension in the movie comes from. But it was just a weird thing. I didn't really understand what the point was and why they're called war dogs. War dogs would almost sort of insinuate that they had some purpose beyond just sitting there and getting shit on. But they don't really delve too far into what that greater purpose would be. It's just sort of they're just everywhere, and then they just have to live like normal, and they're mad about it.
Yeah, I mean, the way that I took it was that they are serving the country of Wakanda by bringing back information of what other countries are doing, and also keeping an eye on people to ensure that they are not finding any other sources of vibranium. We get this kind of explored more in the future.
Gotcha.
Where other countries, as they start to become aware of vibranium, start to scour the earth for other deposits of it to become that kind of powerful.
Yeah. Word.
So anyways, this is where we also get a mention, by the way, of Ulysses Claw for the first time here. And we know Claw, obviously, from the Avengers Age of Ultron movie.
Yeah,
I was going to say Lord of the Rings.
Yeah,
Yeah,
from Lord of the Rings. Yeah.
You know, a lot of his performance in this movie was very,
it was very
like,
Smeagol,
Gollum-like.
Gollum-esque. Yeah, there's a part where he starts laughing and a little bit of Smeagol comes out, and I just, can't
and
unhear
like,
it.
so I'll say I like, and this is okay. The classic. I found this movie very boring. Truly through and through. I was bored to motherfucking tears by this film.
Okay.
I'm for the podcast. I'm doing air quotes, right? Film. You can't see, but just know, by this piece
I'm
of
sure everybody
cinema.
needs to
Scorsese
know
would
this.
not approve.
Right, yeah,
Well, that's true, unfortunately.
but here's what I'll say. I'll fucking throw this out there. I thought if there's one piece of credit to give this movie, the villains were cool. Claw is cool and Killmonger is cool. And that's really it. I did not much enjoy anything else, but every time Killmonger and Claw were doing things, I was like, hey, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, one note that we should take into our final recap episode is talking about the standouts of the heroes and the villains, because it almost feels like, at least from your perspective, and I might not even disagree, that there were more standout villains in the MCU than there were hero performances in the MCU.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say, because and I don't know, dude. I mean, I think too, it's like the variety in the villains has to be like a little bit more on point also, because it's like, Captain America is just going to be Captain America, like, but you can't have Captain America like fighting the same dude over and over.
Yeah.
So it's like, so all the villains need to be like villainous in their own kind of way. And I thought that, I thought that, like, I don't know, man. I mean, this movie like kind of accomplished it. Like Killmonger's motives were like weird to me a little bit, honestly. Like, but it felt a little ham-fisted, perhaps. But I like Claw, because Claw is just like a guy doing shit for money, and so you don't really need.
He's insane.
He has very easy to understand motivations, and he's just like a soldier of fortune, and that's like his whole thing.
Yep. Anyways, well, back to this scene here. This is where T'Chaka reveals that he was not the only person from Wakanda that was sent here. And it turns out that his friend this whole time was Zuri, who's also Wakandan, who's been keeping an eye. And that's why they know that Njobu helped Claw to get the vibranium within Wakanda.
They got spies on their spies, dude.
Yeah, and this is where it kind of cuts off, and he says, you're going to have to come back to the council to, pay for your crimes, essentially. And then we cut it, and we get the intro credits, which we are back to Marvel intro credits after...
Out of curiosity, because Black Panther got cancer and died, right? Like, the actor...
Chadwick
Boseman. So the Marvel intro... When it released, was it like
it was not?
It was not that. Okay, I was because I noticed it was like all different Chadwick and I was wondering if that was like sort of like a eulogy to the actor after he died.
They used that for the Wakanda Forever intro, and then they replaced it on this movie too on Disney Plus.
Yep, exactly.
Okay.
That's exactly what happened.
Without getting too off base, because this isn't that, but I am curious now, considering that I will probably, at this rate, never watch Wakanda Forever. I bet that will never, ever happen for me. How do they explain him not being there?
He just dies of something?
They actually kill him off in the movie.
Word.
But it's like off screen.
Okay,
but it's addressed more of like a disease that he gets that they can't cure, which kind of fuels Shuri's drive through that movie, right?
Understood.
Yeah, because Shuri's the one who can heal people,
right.
but she can't heal him.
But you can't cure cancer.
It's a movie that you probably wouldn't find super emotional, but a lot of people find super emotional.
Probably. Yeah,
I actually really liked Wakanda Forever, but
I surprise, I did as well. Anyways, so that was the Chadwick intro credits. I really the thing about real quick, last thing on that note, because you asked about like, did they use that elsewhere in the Wakanda Forever intro? it does a little intro scene where they talk about Chadwick's character, T'Challa, is dying. They end it with him dying, and then it's no music intro. It's the same intro, but it's just silent the whole time.
And it's all those like shots of Chadwick Boseman.
And in the theater I was in, I've never heard a theater as quiet as in that moment. And I was in there with a bunch of other like Marvel nerds, obviously, because I saw it like the weekend of.
Yeah, everyone stopped eating.
That was just like
there
a
were no
moment.
Straws, like, it was crazy.
Yeah.
That was just a moment that I'll remember going to a movie theater, was that like just absolute silence.
Yeah, everyone was hysterically pissing themselves, but just quietly.
Okay, here we go. Not as excited, though, as you were at the end of this movie when the Winter
Bucky,
Soldier comes up.
That's like, I fucking hate Bucky. Like, Bucky is legitimately my least favorite thing across all of these movies.
God. All right. Anyway. We're picking up right after Civil War here in the timeline where King T'Chaka is now dead.
Yes.
We saw that scene obviously play out in Civil War. And they are in they're flying over the Sambisa forest in Nigeria in a cloaked ship.
Yep.
And we get introduced to Okoye, I think, for the first time in this movie. Played by the same person from The Walking Dead, which was really kind of her kickoff, I think, into stardom. I don't know if you watched Walking Dead much, but she played Michonne in that show.
Oh, I didn't realize it was the same person that played Michonne. Yeah, I saw Walking Dead like a million motherfucking years ago, so that is not fresh in my mind.
Yeah, it went 8 seasons longer than it should have, so that's probably why. But yeah, so that was the first time we kind of saw her, and then she played a really big role here as well.
And can I say, and I don't know if you guys necessarily are going to agree with me on this point or not, but like, I like as a romantic lead, which was like the whole thing in the movie was that it's like, you know, Black Panther and her like sort of like, you know,
no, you're talking about we're talking we haven't even gotten out of the plane yet.
Yeah. Oh, we haven't gotten out of the plane. Okay, word. Sorry. Keep going.
Yep. So, but because we just skipped over the most important part of this movie,
right?
And that's a plane jump.
Jump. There you go.
Yeah, of course, the plane jump, right? Yeah. And then we get this nighttime scene where these trucks are kind of driving through. They're housing these fugitives, it seems, and they're driving them to their next destination. Black Panther plane jump down onto the ground, and we get another kind of nighttime scene reminiscent of almost the scene in Guardians of the Galaxy 2 with Rocket kind of going through the trees and like taking people out one by one. But this was obviously more direct hits instead of using gadgets to blow them up.
Yeah, and I'll say too, like honestly, I felt like art direction in the scene was kind of cool. Like I sort of liked how it's kind of like it almost sort of felt like Batman-esque, you know, where it's like it's like the gunshot sort of briefly illuminating Black Panther as he's like going through and just mobbing everybody down, but then you know, he's just so much faster and stronger than they are that they can't possibly hope to win. And also, like, he's, like, impervious to bullets. Which is the other thing, too, where I'm just kind of, like, throughout this entire movie, it's like they're, like, aware of like, everybody knows about Black Panther, right? Like it's like a thing.
No, not everybody knows about Black Panther. It's the Protector of Wakanda, but the Protector of Wakanda doesn't go out into the world and protect from outside.
Okay.
They're protecting from within, and then when people come to their borders, Black Panther may be there, but like he's not a worldwide known
really his only like outside debut was in Civil War, but
it was like Civil War,
we talk about later on in this movie that what's his face, Agent Ross, kind of covered that up. So like nobody really knows about Black Panther.
Okay. All right, word.
Yeah, and in this, by the way, before we go further in the story of this, which we're still at the intro, but still, before we go further, I did want to know, this is where the first moments of CGI really kind of stuck out to me, at least. It seemed like there were a lot of moments throughout this movie where, like, you would see where the shift was in the CGI versus the regular character. Like, almost like they were doing it in the same cut. Like, it wasn't cut CGI, cut regular character. Like, it almost felt like in certain parts it was like they like changed it midway through like a flip or something. It was, I don't know, it was really weird.
Here's what I'll tell you about that is that a lot of the time, if it's done well, that happens and you don't notice it. But
gotcha.
Like usually they'll do things to cover it up, like the camera like will pan behind something in the foreground and then that's when they'll change it.
Like a branch or something.
Yeah.
Will go like whoosh and like intersect the shot for a second and then
but like in this, like they do it a couple times in this movie too, and they might have sold it if they didn't have like I don't know what was plaguing production with this, but like all of the CG was just bogged down somehow. So even when they do it correctly, like in frame, and like they have the directorial vision to like really sell the transition from real person to CGI, it still doesn't work because the CGI is not really on par with anything. But I will say in this beginning sequence, it works really well because it's all in dark. And it's kind of like Batman,
sure.
So
it's less noticeable.
Said, so it's like a lot of it gets hidden. So this is one of the better action sequences, CGI.
Yeah, I mean, even like the start of the sequence where it's like the dude with the flashlight, and then he like looks up into the tree, and it's like Black Panther. Like that's very Batman. Yeah. That's like hella Batman. Yeah. That's super duper Batman
in the jungle.
Right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, so one of the prisoners is Nakia, who that's why they're there, is to rescue Nakia out of there.
Right. And then that's the romantic lead that I was talking about, where I'm saying like I feel like that was really flat. Like the whole movie, the romantic lead didn't like emotionally like do anything for me, and then it like kind of leads all the way up to this climax at the end where they finally have their kiss, and it's just sort of like like I don't know, it just felt like floppy. Like I wasn't like really sold or invested in it.
The way that I kind of looked at it was because what we find out is that they dated previously, right? And that it seems like they didn't necessarily break up because they disliked each other, right? They broke up for reasons of Nakia wanting to leave Wakanda and do other things.
Right, because she wants to help the world outside of just Wakanda.
Yeah, of course. And so I feel like it didn't need to be a start to finish, like, romantic journey between the two. It was more so, how are they just going to reconnect and end in a place where Nakia and T'Challa will be together?
And see, I think I agree with that, which is why like maybe their sort of kiss scene at the end like felt like weird to me, because I'm like, it could like they could have just not had that and then just like been just having a close bond the entire time. But like then at the end it's sort of like, it's like the they do get together kind of moment, and it's like, well, they already sort of like were the whole time. So like
exactly.
So this doesn't fucking mean anything really. You know,
it was just middle ground,
right? It just sort of felt like a classic Marvel kiss, you know? Like it's like a lot of the shit in this movie was pretty dang formulaic for the kind of Marvel format.
Yep. And they're taking them all out one by one. Nakia's helping now, and then at the last second he freezes in front of Nakia, seeing her again, and then that's when Okoye shows up and takes care of the last person. Making fun of him for freezing in front of Nakia. But now we get to head to Wakanda and see, I think for the first time, the full view of Wakanda.
Yeah. So I just wanted, because they, like, it's kind of implied that these people that they're saving in the trucks are like they're like slaves, right? They're like being trafficked. It's human trafficking. And so they go in, it's funny too, because they're like saving the slaves, but Nakia is there. And it's obvious that Nakia is like trying to also infiltrate, do whatever she's doing. She's got her own mission. They save her, and they also incidentally save the slaves as well. And then they're like, all right, peace. And then they just leave them out in the middle of fucking nowhere.
They're like, yeah, you guys take it from here.
So I'm like,
yeah, you all know how to drive trucks, right?
Yeah, we did the heavy lifting. You're welcome.
I don't know. It just doesn't seem like they're very benevolent people. Like, they're just like, all right, fend for yourselves. We wanted our person. and now we're gonna go.
Yeah, I think if you look too closely at some of these moments, that you'll find that right. Like it just. Yeah, it doesn't play out super well. However, it does kind of fall into this, storyline as we get further in of T'Chaka leaving Eric Stevens or Killmonger behind after Njobu is killed. So it's kind of on brand for them at this point.
Yeah, they just kind of do that shit.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, it is a pattern. But yeah, so we get our first real look here at Wakanda as a whole, and we also see that they have kind of a force field around Wakanda that hides it in plain sight, right? That it's a mountain that's kind of blocked off by a force field.
That's another thing vibranium does, by the way, is mirages.
Well, it's powered by vibranium. Right. The force field is not vibranium.
Yeah. Okay, what's the force field
So
then?
what...
It's a force field.
Yeah, it's the vibranium because like they have access to vibranium, which is like the best material you could ever use as like a building thing. So because they have better building blocks, their technology advances faster than the rest of the world.
Yeah, so deal with it.
Yeah, I mean, I had to. I did. It was dealt with.
So overall, I'm curious, like. What your guys' thoughts are on the kind of overall view of Wakanda. And we get a bit more in the streets later on where we see kind of the mix between old and new, kind of like keeping the older culture of Wakanda and like the street kind of markets and things like that. But then you see mixed in there like people utilizing like holographic phones and random technology that just is super advanced. But when I looked at it, I was kind of like thinking the difference between that and like our overview of Asgard when we saw it.
Yeah.
I really liked kind of the mix of the two. I thought they made for an interesting environment when I was looking at that overview.
Yeah, sure. I mean, visually it's like fine, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I think the overview shots are kind of my thing. Is like the big shots of like large parts of these areas were really good, but again, like when we came to the parts that really mattered the most, the action scenes and stuff, they just like dropped the ball. It seems really kind of like interesting because normally, if we see large great environments for the most part, we also end up seeing pretty good CGI. At least we did in like Guardians 2, right?
Sure. Yeah.
So anyways, we meet Shuri for the first time here, as well as the Queen Mother, Ramonda, who's played by Angela Bassett, who, by the way, for the Wakanda Forever performance, got a bunch of nominations for. I mean, her performance in that was out of control good. But this movie, she's like very much a side character that has very little interaction in this movie. So we jump to London present day, and this is where we're going to see Eric Stevens, also known as Killmonger, for the first time.
Yeah, and this was cool. I liked this scene. It's sort of like character motivation and whatever. Although I will say that it's like I did feel like it was perhaps a bit convenient that he's just like, I drugged your coffee, and she's like, I'm like, it's like kind of like what, like that was sort of because like he's like looking around at artifacts, right? And he's like, oh, tell me about this, and she's like, ha ha ha, I'll tell. And then he's like, ooh, tell me about this. He's like, ha ha ha, but then she starts going like. And he's like, tell me about this one. And then she says some shit. And he's like, wrong. This was stolen from my people, and it's vibranium. And I drugged your fucking coffee, bitch. It was kind of just like,
yeah.
How did he drug the coffee? I was sort of, I kind of got like pulled out. Like, was there something there that I missed, or is it just kind of like they had this whole heist thing planned, and that was just a part of it that happened before we cut to this point, and he just knew that the coffee would be word.
Yep, and that's exactly it.
And then why did he need to like drug her?
Because
to cause a distraction, and then they could utilize the ambulance to get him out.
Okay, yeah, sure. All right, yep, fair enough. All right, back to you, Dan.
Yeah, so that raises your score a point, right?
Yep, yeah.
What I really like about these scenes with Killmonger is because it feels like Ryan Coogler really resonated with like.
Wait, is that his actual name?
That's the director.
Oh, okay,
that's the director.
Cool. The director, Ryan Coogler.
Yeah.
Coogler. dude.
Yeah.
Okay.
Ugh.
Yes.
Yikes. All right. Anyway.
It seems like he really resonated with the character. You could tell like that the shots where we are focused on Killmonger are like a little bit more inspired than the rest of the movie, and it really sets up Killmonger to be like this really imposing force. He like is a master of planning shit, like this heist. Needlessly intricate, but I don't know, the mix of the directing, like as it slow pans up to Killmonger's back and he's like looking at the artifacts with fucking what's his Ludwig Göransson, the what is it, the director of music, what is it? The composer. That's
is that
the composer?
Yeah.
Like I don't know, the mix of both of them really makes Killmonger like a standout, but like not because of Michael B. Jordan, just because of how they frame the character, and it just makes them cool.
Yeah, I also feel like his character in this movie is like a dose of more reality than we see from normal MCU characters, but in such a way in this movie that it's like such a stark contrast from every other character that we look at in the in this movie. Like every other character is kind of almost larger than life to an extent, but it's almost like Killmonger grounds it a bit, and the music, to your point, backs that up. I think the music in this movie was really good and was very different from anything we've ever heard in MCU movies.
Yeah, I would actually agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah, it was, I mean, again, like, you know, other movies have used music to kind of make larger impact on a scene, but I feel like this was really subtle moments where we'd get those like little yells or little noises or beeps or whatever it was, like that just like increased the tension of certain moments really well. So I thought the music direction in this movie was like part of the reason it was a good movie. And then we get Claw.
Yep, yeah,
here
Claw, which
for
is
the first
the
time.
Thing. Yeah, and again, like I really feel like the intermingling of like Claw and Killmonger was probably my favorite part of the whole movie. If I like anything where it's sort of like Claw and Killmonger doing stuff, I thought was like pretty good, which is sort of a shame because they kind of get rid of Claw a bit unceremoniously later. And I think that my attention span for the movie dramatically dropped off after that point, but this was kind of like a highlight to me. I like this thing, you know, you sort of get like the wacky heist action, which is kind of cool. You sort of see that like Killmonger's motivation is this sort of like anti-colonialism kind of stint that he has, as well as, and it will be explored a bit more later, but sort of showing that like, you know, he feels like he wants to kind of take back what is owed to him because he comes from a place of immense wealth and they are not using any of their wealth or status to help subjugated people around the world. And so you kind of see that he might have a bit of a complex moral compass, because is he wrong, you know? And no, I guess in the context of this universe, he's actually probably more correct than anyone else, I would argue. But, you know, his methods, and that's, you know, the crux of the whole thing.
Yeah, I mean, they end up doing really what he wanted to do at a high level, which was exposing Wakanda's resources to the world.
Right, for sure.
So in the end, really, they did exactly what Killmonger wanted them to do.
Yep.
Killmonger was right.
Yeah.
Yep. And
also, a quick note on Claw. His hand, like he's like,
dude,
got
his
a
hand looks
cannon
so
there.
gross.
But like, I didn't like it, dude.
I wonder if the choice to make it look like a shitty prosthetic, like kind of not real human like hand, was either a choice,
it had to be
CGI
right?
budget thing.
I think it had to be a choice.
It had to be a choice. It didn't, and it's like I was trying to kind of like put it into words, like why it didn't work, and it's like I can't even. It's just like I didn't like it. Like
it just feels weird.
It was just
like,
but not weird in like an interesting way. Like it was almost sort of like a department store mannequin hand or something.
Exactly.
You know? And it's like it's sort of like. didn't do a good job of like showing the like. It's like if you have like something that's like so highly technical it can split apart and like shoot like fucking energy rays out of it.
You could make it look better.
You could make it like not look like a like cheap
like
prosthetic.
You ripped it off of the mannequins at JCPenney.
Right, exactly. Yeah. But here we are.
But now we're back in Wakanda. This is where we see the Wakandans on boats, and they're headed towards the falls for the ceremony to find their new king. And this is where we also see some more tech, how it like stops the water in certain parts and creates the waterfall in place where they have the ceremony.
Right.
In this part, again, like these CGI moments, at least from my perspective, looked pretty cool. Like the setup of it, and even when we're at the waterfalls, clearly we don't have this giant waterfall that we're shooting this from. Right. But these moments were really, I think, taken very seriously by the director and by the production team here, because these were the standout kind of shots from a art direction perspective, at least for me.
I'll say that the like leading up to the waterfall and like you see the waterfall. Really cool, but then once they start like taking their places alongside the cliffs and they're watching the fighting ceremony, every single time, dude, I cringe a little bit because the people who are like standing and like dancing on the cliffs look so fake. It's insane.
Really?
Yeah. I don't know if that's just me. But every time I look at it, there's just something off about it, and I can't even really tell you why. It might be because all of the clothes that they're wearing are so vibrant and intricate.
Yeah.
But also, like, everyone seems like they're doing close up. They're all doing, like, different dances. But then once you pan upwards, they start looking more and more like CGI dancing, and the scale feels off sometimes. I don't know.
Yeah, I kind of noticed here too, like and it makes sense, but like the water physics like aren't right, like a lot, and I guess that you can sort of like maybe headcanon that away by being like, well, it's whatever, they have like control over it or whatever the fuck, but even still, it's kind of like, and I get it because water's like really hard to do, but if there's anything that kind of took me out of it, it was like the water just doesn't look right often. There's often points where it doesn't seem correct. Like, and and I noticed it.
Yeah, like while we're like recording, I usually have the movie just playing in the background, so like I kind of know the part of the movie that we're talking about.
Gotcha.
And like so like I have the waterfalls going in the back. And it's funny because the foreground water is like real water, and then you see a little bit of splashing going on in the background, and the water's moving a little bit slower.
It, like, cuts to
not the same.
Yeah.
No, for sure. Yeah, like I said, it's like it just fell wrong. And water physics are probably one of the hardest things to get down,
for sure.
Really. So
well,
the
not
most
anymore,
inconsistent.
But yeah.
Well, this is where we also see Zuri again. Now, this was the guy who was with Njobu at the start of the movie back in 1992. Now he's leading this ceremony for finding the new king here.
Right.
And part of this is that they remove the Black Panther's powers for the ceremony to set an even playing ground for anyone who wishes to challenge.
I didn't totally get it, I guess. Like, so he has powers aside from just being Black Panther. Like he like the Black Panther's powers are he's like super strong and super fast and whatever. But also he has the suit, and that's like a bonus addition too.
Yeah, the suit is extra.
Okay, word.
Like. Yeah, for sure.
Got it.
And I think, well, we'll also talk about the technology behind this, because this is the first time we see nanotech in the MCU, which is going to be used elsewhere as well. And it's because Wakanda starts to share their resources with the rest of the world.
Right, yeah.
Including maybe Tony Stark.
Oh man, can you imagine like a nanotech Iron Man
Can you imagine
suit
it?
kind of thing?
It's almost like maybe we'll see that in Infinity War. I don't know.
You know what? Frankly, I hope we do, because oh boy, wouldn't that be fun for me?
I know. We get the names of the tribes at this point too. It's the Merchant tribe, the Border tribe, which is Wakabi's tribe, who's
he's
Okoye's boyfriend, who leads the rhinos and. Yeah, who like teams up essentially with Killmonger and takes his side as he takes the throne. The River tribe, the Mining tribe, and then finally the Jabari tribe shows up, led by M'Baku, who the actor is Winston Duke. He
That's a cool ass name, dude. What the fuck? Winston Duke?
Yeah, it's a sick
name. Yeah, dude.
He is a fan favorite from this movie.
Yeah, wait,
he definitely had a lot of...
Is he the one that shows up and he's like, I challenge you, actually, when all the other tribes are like, okay. I gotta say, like, with that dude, something that I noticed that actually, like, stood out to me in a huge way, that guy's, like, not on steroids. And it's, like, the first... instance truly, I think, in any Marvel movie where you just have like a regular jacked guy. Like, it's like he takes off his shirt and he's just like he looks like a regular, that's like what a regular buff guy looks like. You know what I mean? Like, and it like really stood out to me because I was like, have we ever seen that before?
No.
Where like a guy takes their shirt off and they're not like on fucking anabolic steroids, you know? And I'm like, not really, you know what I mean? Like, but it's like you just
it's funny you mentioned that because he is a standout from this movie because he's kind of like a different take on that kind of character, not just visually, but also just from his dialogue and kind of the way that he acts through this movie. He also has a really big part through the next movie as well because of the reception he got in this one.
Yeah, totally. No, and again, I just thought it was interesting because I'm just like, oh yeah, it's just like a, you know, it's just like a regular jacked guy, you know? It's like that's what it looks like.
And the whole idea of the Jabari is that they are not fans of the technological advancements, kind of taking away the cultural parts of tradition from Wakanda. And so they live separate from the rest of Wakanda. And so they have their fight here. It's the Dora Milaje and the Jabari are surrounding them as they fight. They're up at the edge of the waterfall, and T'Challa gets him in a... I don't know, what do you call that? Like a chokehold or something with his legs?
Yeah.
Like a leg hold choke.
What I like about the leg submission that he gets is that like it's like a nice detail because at the beginning of the fight, he gets stabbed in the chest. So it's like obviously he's not going to be able to win with his upper body strength.
I see.
So he gets the submission with his legs, and I thought that was nice little detail.
That's a good point. I didn't even think about that.
I'll say, dude, I don't know, man. Maybe I'll take the opposing side on this. I didn't really like this scene that much because it's like there's kind of no tension. It's like, okay, what the fuck? Like Black Panther's gonna lose here, you know? It's like that wouldn't even, you know? And it's like, and they sort of do the classic. It is like the most classic fight scene thing that you can do, where it's like Black Panther gets stabbed and it's not looking good, but then he punches the other guy and now it's looking up, but then he gets punched and now it isn't looking good again, but then he punches the other guy. It's like direct, like one-to-one trades going back and forth until the pivotal moment where it's like, oh no, all hope is lost, he's about to lose, and then he wins by submission and then it's done. And it's just like the most stereotypical way you can choreograph a fight scene, and that happens a lot in this movie. It's just stuff like that where it's like the most cliche way that you could go about doing it is exactly what happens, and this was just kind of an example of that for me.
I won't disagree with that. I'm not saying the entire fight was good. I just like the one detail that I pointed out. But
yeah, for sure.
I will say that the purpose of this first fight with M'Baku being very generic was to set up the fight that he has with Killmonger later on.
Right, for sure.
Because he gets stabbed.
by the way, is generic as fuck too, because at that point it's like, what's he gonna do? Win and then the movie's over? You know, it's like again, so yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, but if we didn't have this first generic fight, then you couldn't set up the quote unquote twist.
Then you couldn't set up the generic second fight. And exactly. And I completely agree with you. It's like
you need the generic setup for the generic follow up.
Yeah. Right, exactly. Yeah, the generic rise for the generic fall, which then takes us into the generic third act.
Yeah, the worst act.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Right, for sure. I mean, truly, this movie is a lot of that.
The only thing that I get out of this, by the way, when I see this fight is I'm just thinking that must have been really difficult to shoot, by the way. Like, they are fighting in, what is it, like a foot of water?
Yeah.
I can just imagine like having to do that fight scene probably over the course of multiple days probably was really, really like tiring, right? Like
I would imagine.
That wasn't CGI. That was like in a pool of water, clearly. Yeah. But yeah, I just can't even imagine how like intense filming all of that would have been.
Yeah, but also to be fair, those two guys are in like really good shape.
Yeah, no, I'll tell you what I was thinking throughout the entire fight. I was just like, damn, these dudes are buff as fuck. And that's my takeaway from it.
Well, so we get the end of that fight. T'Challa is king and the first utterance of Wakanda Forever. That is, by the way, the name of the second movie, Christian. Wakanda Forever.
No,
so,
really?
Just so you know. Yeah, this phrase that they say throughout the movie.
Interesting. Yeah, so. Okay. Maybe I will go see it then. I hadn't realized that detail.
Oh, well, there you go. Yeah. And so we get the process of turning him back into Black Panther for the first time, where we see some flashbacks from Civil War, the explosion.
Again, can I get air horn?
Here we go.
Hey, what's up? Welcome back to Christian's Good Faith Question Corner.
Okay.
Wow. Okay.
So, so the flower turns him into Black Panther.
Right.
But, gives him the Black Panther powers. And that's different than the suit, right? So the suit is like one thing, the flower is the other thing. But there's only one Black Panther at a time, and it's whoever the king of Wakanda is.
No.
Okay. Who eats? So everyone can just eat this flower, but they don't.
Also, no.
Okay. So what's happening?
We find out more about this in the second movie, where we realize that part of becoming the Black Panther has to do with the ancestral plane and whether you are kind of accepted into the lineage of the Black Panthers.
Okay.
Right. So, like in the second film, the obvious kind of question is who becomes the Black Panther next, right, because there isn't necessarily a clear line because of the ceremony and the fact that it could go to another bloodline if that were one, which is why Killmonger got that, right? So technically the process of becoming the Black Panther is not just the herb. It's also the spiritual and the ancestral plane part of it.
So in Civil War, he had already done it, though, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So King T'Chaka at that point was no longer either physically able or wanting to keep up the tradition. And so they did the ceremony. T'Challa got that, became the Black Panther in that moment, and then T'Chaka's still king until he's dead.
And then T'Challa takes over, but while continuing to be the Black Panther. But then why did he have to do the ritual thing in the? Is it because then he does the ritual thing again, and then he sees his father underneath the tree.
It's because every time he gets the powers back, he has to go through the ritual.
Got it. Okay, word. Yep. So you have to go back to the astral plane every time you drink the powered the Witcher serum thing. Yeah. Okay, word.
Yep.
Okay.
The Witcher serum.
Yep.
I mean, it does. It gives him the black veins. You know. Yeah. But
So
okay, cool. Hey, you know what? Can I get some air horns?
Yeah, please, of course.
This concludes Christian's Good Faith Corner. I understand now. Thank you guys very much. Okay, moving on.
That was a good faith corner, actually.
Yeah, I was just I couldn't tell what was happening.
You want to know my issue with the ancestral
plane.
Yeah,
the not good faith corner.
The not good faith corner. Yeah. So the thing about the ancestral, not even the ancestral plane, it's just the existence and confirmation of an afterlife, but not only of an afterlife, a paradise afterlife kind of removes the stakes from a lot of
the
characters.
high stakes nature
because it's like they're gonna die and then they just get to live in paradise forever. Like it's
But we didn't really see a paradise, right? Like we saw an open field where they could interact with each
it's
other.
It's like
and
a beautiful open field where
everyone gets to like turn into a
happy.
panther and run around free forever.
When Killmonger goes through it, he's in an apartment. Like Killmonger's in his apartment with his dad when that happens.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily like an afterlife where they're hanging out until someone shows up at the ancestral plane and they're ready to like have a conversation with them.
But I think that like whatever the vision that they're seeing is like kind of like the foyer of the. Because even like later, he's like, "It's time for you to come with us, son," sort of implying that they're they're in the entryway, and they're like, "Okay, now you're gonna come see the cool shit." Like back
but
here.
we don't know what that is. Right. It could just be literally their souls floating in a.
I mean, hey, that sounds
jar.
a lot better than real life.
Yeah, it's just literally the Christian hell.
Yeah.
But we come with us, and then he just drops into a lake of fire.
we do get a lot of other confirmations though about afterlives in the MCU.
Yeah, Valhalla.
Valhalla,
that's true.
Yeah, is a real thing. And also Moon Knight explores gods and afterlife quite in depth in the MCU. So all of that is actually canon to the MCU.
So there's like hella afterlives.
Hella.
Hell yeah.
And Hela is in the afterlife.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah, I just don't like it. I mean, like Moon Knight it's fine because there's like a bad ending, but then there's also like a good ending, and you have to kind of like grapple with the two. But like for Valhalla, it's like if you die while fighting, you get to go to heaven, and it's like, okay, everyone should just go and fight. Like, you know? Yeah.
Go punch someone in the face before you're dead.
Right.
Okay. So T'Challa does see T'Chaka in this moment. They talk about protecting Wakanda, and T'Chaka says that it is hard for a good man to be king. Kind of noting that like you can kind of think you're doing the good thing all of the time, and that doesn't necessarily end up leading to be the best king, because obviously here T'Chaka has done some things that maybe he's not super proud of, like leaving this kid abandoned in Oakland with no father after he kills his dad. Which
also
not great.
I'm just gonna say
he did not need to kill his dad.
I was gonna like get to like whatever later when it's, but I mean just while we're on the topic, that plot point felt really flimsy to me, because it's just like. It's like he's like, why didn't you take him? And he's like, we need to protect Wakanda. And he's like, oh, okay, and it's just like flimsy reasoning. But like there's no reason to not just take the kid, and then the question is explicitly asked. Well, why didn't you take the kid? And he doesn't really give any explanation for it whatsoever. And then they kind of just brush over it.
He does. He says that he wanted to omit the lie, and the lie is that N'Jobu was killed by him. What is the explanation if he shows up with this kid, says, oh, this was N'Jobu's kid, and oh, by the way, N'Jobu is dead?
Yeah, you say,
how did he die?
N'Jobu was involved in some pretty crazy shit. He had a bunch of guns and was planning some heists, and here's his kid. He got killed.
And then it only takes one person to look 2 seconds into that situation and look at a medical record, because Wakanda could easily get that medical record and see that there were panther claws in his chest.
Right, but they could have just done that anyway, right?
Yeah, but nobody had the reason to do that because they left that out in the world. That was the idea behind leaving the kid behind, is that they wouldn't have to address it if they didn't bring the kid back to Wakanda.
They should have just killed the kid too.
Well,
that would have, you know what? That would have solved a lot of problems.
The entire movie.
And Christian would have liked this movie a lot more. Okay, well, T'Challa and Nakia are now walking the streets of Wakanda. This is kind of our first view into like the more in-depth look at Wakanda as a city. And this is where we get kind of the first note of kind of the overarching theme of this, and how Nakia is not really happy about the fact that Wakanda keeps everything to themselves and doesn't share that with the world. And at this point of the movie, T'Challa is very much like ingrained in their culture and like is very much against the fact that they would ever, you know, expand their knowledge elsewhere outside of Wakanda.
Right.
Yeah. And so after this, we'll get the first look at the giant rhinos with W'Kabi, who
those will come up again later, so pay attention.
Yes, they will. And we also find out that W'Kabi and Okoye are together. We don't know whether they're like married or just like in a relationship or anything like that, but we just know that they are in this nebulous relationship. And so the rhino here, keep an eye out for the future.
Boy, you know what, if you like this rhino in this scene, you're gonna love the third act of this movie, because you're gonna see a lot of these rhinos. Chekhov's rhino. You introduce a rhino in the first act, it needs to be stampeding people by the third.
So now they get word that Claw is trying to sell the vibranium that he got from the museum. And so they are going to discuss going to try to take him out at this point and bring him back to Wakanda, which I'm getting ahead of myself. We'll get there when we get there. But just like the idea of them not bringing him back and like the anger towards that is kind of like a bit iffy towards me. But anyways, we'll get to it when we get to it. We do see the first underground view of Wakanda here and the vibranium and kind of like the railroad systems they've set up. And we see the sonic dampeners for the first time and all this stuff that will play out later in the movie. And I think this is the point where now we get to see the technology. First, we see the sneakers. Did you enjoy that joke? The little the shoes that Shuri makes that don't make noise.
Did you also like the "what are those" joke? That one? Did you get that one?
Oh man, that was aggressively 2018. That does not age. Those are jokes that do not age well with time. But that was like a Snapchat meme, wasn't it? I'm very tuned into boomer culture.
Snapchat memes.
Snapchat. That's where I live. And so we get the first look at nanotech in the MCU, which is Black Panther's new suit. And it's able to build up kinetic energy and then blast that back, which again, here Shuri is capturing this on video to post on Snapchat later, probably.
Yeah, probably.
That's what, probably based on her.
That's what the kids are into.
Yeah, exactly. The suit design here, the nanotech, it's all like, I thought it was great. And the sounds of it, the little things that I noticed in this moment are like the sound of the nanotech, like making the armor around that mannequin at the time stays consistent as we see nanotech in the future.
Sure. Yeah.
And I like I always wonder about how they keep these little details the same across movies. Like, do they have like a shared repository of sounds for the entire MCU that they pull from? Like, you know, Tony Stark's blasters sounding like other blasters in other movies. Like, I don't know. It's really interesting to see how they can keep up so much consistency when it comes to that stuff.
Yeah, for sure. And to answer your question, yes, without a doubt, 100%, they have all that shit completely on lock.
Well, it's funny you bring that up because the Iron Man blaster sound kind of sounds the same as what's his face, the Claw's arm blaster sound. So,
yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, it's and also Iron Man doesn't yet have any vibranium suits, so I guess it maybe shouldn't sound so similar. I can see that. Anyway, so we go now to the actual deal, where it's in Busan, South Korea. T'Challa, Okoye, and Nakia, they get in.
Excuse me, yawning because this fucking movie. but we also get
Jesus Christ. This is real professional. This is what we do here.
Yeah, dude. No, we get another trope heading into where there's sort of the old Korean woman out in front of the gambling parlor, and then they walk up and they're like, hey, act natural, you gotta, whatever. And then it looks like she's not gonna let them in. And she's like, oh, I remember you're trouble. And then she kind of gives a knowing smirk, and then it turns out they're actually buddies, and then they're, it's been forever, whatever. And that's just like the dumbest transition to get from one place to another place. It's very tropey. That's just very it's like the person, it's like, last time I saw you, you left me for dead. I knew I should have killed you then. And then everyone's like, and it's like, how's it going, you son of a bitch? Ha ha, like that kind of fucking thing. Like, I just don't like it.
Oh goodness.
Anyway,
well,
yep. So
thank you so much.
Yeah, nice for that. Nice input.
Yeah, thank you so much.
The part where Christian stood up clapping.
Right.
Agent Ross is here from
I know, it's like out of
Captain America: Civil War.
All the people you could have cameoed. It's like we get stuck with Agent fucking Ross. It's just like what a fucking not exciting guy to like have the focus of the movie be on, but he's very important.
Yeah, would it make you feel better to know that he also plays important roles in future movies?
It wouldn't really. I don't necessarily love him. I guess I don't hate him. Yeah. I don't know. It's bland. It's just a very bland character,
I think that's the point, though, is he's kind of meant to be the bland character of this movie, to balance out kind of the larger than life other characters to an extent.
Yeah, the sort of absurdity happening around him.
Yeah, for sure. Claw arrives with 8 people, where Ross and Claw have this discussion about how Claw is making an actual mixtape and that he can send him his SoundCloud link.
Yeah.
Great lines.
Very cool.
Still holds up, though, by the way. Unlike a Snapchat joke, a SoundCloud joke, 2023, you can still make SoundCloud jokes.
SoundCloud is still around.
That's
good for them.
That one aged well.
Yeah, for sure. Claw does mention here, though, that the crew is not for Ross. He's not concerned about the U.S., the people that came in with Agent Ross. He knows that Wakandans are going to be there. And, of course, Okoye gives up her position first, and a spear, unlatches and shows up, which kicks off this fight where Okoye throws somebody off the balcony, and all of a sudden people are shooting guns everywhere.
And this fight, I gotta say, it kind of plays out like a dollar store Quentin Tarantino thing. Like it's like because it's like one shot with a lot of shit happening. But if it was Quentin Tarantino, people would be like getting their arms ripped off and blood would be spraying everywhere and all kinds of other fun things. Whereas this is a Marvel movie, so of course that's not happening. You just sort of get punches and kicks. But it is it's very reminiscent of like Kill Bill Volume 2 to me. Like it has those vibes to it.
Yeah, there were a few parts in this movie where you could tell it was a Marvel movie, which means like somebody would get shot and they just disappear from the frame, or like the biggest moment in the like third act where Killmonger is like holding one of the Dora Milaje in his hands with the knife at her throat. And she says Wakanda forever and like slices it and
slashes
there's nothing.
Her throat, and she just like does like a cute little 180 spin on her way down to the ground. And it's like, what the fuck was that, dude?
This was also another one of those moments I was talking about earlier where like T'Challa does a jump from the bottom floor to the balcony, and like there's this point mid-run where it switches to CGI and like jumps
that's one of the things I was talking
and you can
about
like
earlier.
And in fact, it's funny that because I know literally exactly the moment that you're talking about, and it like is not great.
Yeah, I just again, it's one of those things I would just love to know like more details about how things like this happen, where it seems like so much effort is put into the rest of the movie, but somehow the CGI just gets missed, and Disney is like okay with putting that out in the world. It just seems like the bar is in weird places.
I mean, $1.3 billion, dude, proves that it doesn't matter.
That's actually exactly what I was gonna say. It's like, yeah, they're fine putting it out in the world because whatever, no one fucking cares.
Because it'll make 1.3. Yeah, I guess so. But I mean, it was clear that critics and fans both addressed the fact that it was not great from a CGI perspective.
And a lot of it, I will say, just comes down to budgeting. Like, if you don't have enough money to pay the CGI people, and then they just won't put in the time. Like, you can't put in the time.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, that's fair. Okay, so now they kick off this car chase, which, by the way, we find out
first. Also, by the way, you brush over the Stan Lee cameo, I think.
Oh yeah.
Oh, I did. Yep. You're right. Yeah, that was with Agent Ross at the table, and T'Challa is like telling him, "We're gonna take Claw, by the way, so you can just deal with it."
And then he's playing craps, and he gets a 7, so he gets the money, and then Stan Lee shows up and is like, "I'll be taking that." Excelsior.
He says Excelsior, and then he says, "Go check out Cape Shit. It's a podcast on the internet." Yeah, he says all of that. So
when does Stan Lee die in this timeline? Because he's still alive at that point.
I can't.
When is his
remember.
last cameo?
And do they keep doing cameos with him, or after he died, is it just done? Gotcha.
Oh, his last one is Endgame.
Endgame, word. There you go.
Which is
that's fitting.
Appropriate. Yeah.
Very fitting.
Yeah, totally.
Wow. That is... It's almost like they wrote it that way.
Right, totally, yeah.
Disney.
Yeah. Disney.
Whoops. Don't let Kevin Feige hear that.
Yeah.
He'll come take you down. Anyway, so this is where we lead up to the car chase, which... Okay, there's one thing I'm going to say about... Well, there's a couple things we're going to say about this car chase,
I have a lot of things to say about this, actually. So
I know you do. I will say the one thing that wasn't well explained here was, as part of the fight, they start shooting at the car that Nakia and Okoye are in, and they say...
But it's a vibranium car.
It's vibranium, you idiots!
Yeah. Like vibranium, it's a vibranium windshield. You got those vibranium tires. You got that vibranium, convertible top. It's just vibranium, dude.
Yeah.
Deal with it.
Yeah, that was the other stuff. But how did they get the vibranium car there? How long in advance were they planning this? Because as far as I know, they found out Claw was going to be there and then went there. Yeah. So how did they get 2 cars that were made out of vibranium there?
Yeah.
Did they have a ship that had 2 cars on it and then they parked them, then showed up at the event? I don't know.
Maybe the war dogs. What do they call them? The war boys. The war dogs. Yeah, maybe the war dogs just have vibranium cars parked in every major metropolitan area around the world.
Yeah, I don't think that's what it is.
I don't think so either.
But we did,
and
we
also
did
I think the idea, just by the way, of a vibranium windshield
Yeah.
is fucking stupid. I just want to throw it.
Yeah, that was my takeaway from that too.
Ting, and they're like, oh, the windshield, it's vibranium. It's like, shut the fuck up, shut up.
I can't even say anything against that. It is.
Do not like that.
That's tough. It is. It's tough.
Yeah, that's rough.
I don't know. I mean, what do you say? I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah,
dude.
Yeah.
And so I'm gonna say, okay. So first off, with this car chase scene, it felt very Fast and the Furious-y to me.
Mm-hmm.
It's sort of again, talking about just generic action in this movie. It's this is a generic car chase thing that is only saved by cheating, because filming anything in South Korea is cheating because South Korea looks cool. So you can save all of your generic shit by just deciding to film it in South Korea because it's gonna look tight. Because South Korea, neon nightlife, just is a cool fucking backdrop to anything.
Yeah, with all the reflections going off on the cars. Yeah.
Right, exactly. That's cool. But that's it. That's the only cool. It was cool that it's like South Korean. That's tight. Everything else I didn't like.
There were 2 moments in this part that I thought were unique to this movie.
Okay.
And the 2 moments are, one, when Okoye takes her spear and throws it through the back glass and front glass of the car, landing it in front where it like hits the spear and then tops over, like the car like falls over the spear essentially because it like stopped it immediately and flipped it over, right? I thought that was pretty cool. I also thought it was cool when Black Panther was on top of the car and they were heading towards that intersection where like they were going to collide with those cars, and he utilized his like
puts his claws
vibranium
on the
claws
to
like
drift the car. Yeah, okay. I mean, if that's what you think is cool, then like sure.
No. I said like interesting to this movie, like not generic.
Okay, counterpoint though. The like spear going through the car and whatever, it's just like an RPG. Like that's just like which is like
no, because
but it is.
It didn't blow up the car.
Right, I know, but it's like
it ran into it.
Sure, I know, but it's like it's still like the generic car chase thing where it's like you're there, then like they're like, oh, what are we gonna do? One of them leans out of the window and is like, don't worry, I got this, and then does a thing to make the car flip over itself and go into the air, clearing the
not generic is that it's a spear and not an RPG.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
But it's the same
it's the
outcome. Like,
no, right.
Sure.
Well,
yeah,
but everything is the same then.
Yeah. Well, no. Everything is not the same. I'm just saying that's like every single car chase scene in every single action movie ever needs a, oh no, what are we going to do? The person in the passenger seat leans out of the window and does something to the car in front of them that makes the car flip into the air so that they can continue. That's just every car chase scene that's ever been filmed.
How many movies have vibranium cars?
You know, and that's a very fair point, though. I suppose I'll give this movie another point because of the expert
And now
use.
Christian's favorite part of the car scene, when Nakia's chair and steering wheel are all that's left, and Okoye lands on the hood.
Bro, the fuck. I know. It's like I was like. Because I was like, oh shit, are we going to get like a Stephen Strange moment here? It's like, because, you know, they're like, they shoot at the car and it's just like this like fucking just crumpled mass of just like, you know, just gnarled steel. And it's like, oh fuck, he finally got the thing that like took out the vibranium, which is like the whole thing. I'm like, are they just going to like straight up like kill someone? Like, are they going to do something interesting here? And then it's just like, nope, actually not. Nothing. We're actually going to use this as a comedic relief moment and move on. And that was a very anticlimactic way to end that.
I knew it would be your
favorite
favorite
part. Is all the close-ups of Nakia's foot on the pedal.
Yeah, that was like if any part of this movie was in Tarantino movie, like that, it was that part. I thought it was very weird that we got like 3 flashbacks to her foot on the pedal in this moment.
We also get here it's the dude's name, Cross, the merc.
Oh.
Agent Ross?
No. The Claw. There you go. Claw. I was just conflating Claw and Ross.
Yeah, got it. Okay.
No, we also get Claw calling the Wakandans savages, which makes it vaguely racial. You know, they didn't want to go like too far into, you know, but you know he's a bad guy. If you weren't sure he was a bad guy before, now he's saying vaguely racial things, and that's really bad. And
No, when he rips his arm off, by the way, he rips his vibranium arm off, T'Challa does. Yeah. And this is the first instance we've seen in the MCU of like people recording in the streets as like a plot point, right? Like this idea of like, how are all these things happening and nobody's like gathered around like recording it with video? And we see that in this moment, which is what really stops T'Challa from killing him right in this moment.
Which
is this like
and for sure
street scene.
But also I think it's like dumb. I think that's like a dumb trope because you're right. It's like they're all filming it, but it's like it's a very commonly used thing throughout like all superhero media probably, but like we've seen it in the MCU before too, where it's this sort of idea where it's like if you fuck this guy up, then you're just as bad as, whatever. But I think like if Black Panther just killed that dude and then dip, like, first of all, what the fuck are they going to do to him? Second of all, if you, like, look at that for, like, a moment, it's like, oh, shit, like, giant terrorist who worked with Ultron and also did a heist and stole vibranium and then ransacked the streets of South Korea with a crew of weapons and was just taken down by this guy. Like, I think it would have been fine. You could just kill him.
Yeah, but a lot of those stories are not ones the US are going to release.
Yeah.
That's the thing, is like, there's not much they're going to be able to say publicly to the world about what Claw has done in a way that would help put Black Panther in a good light.
Okay, but
also, again, remember that Black Panther is not known across the world yet. So for the first view of Black Panther being recorded by hundreds of people in the street to be killing a person, regardless of what they've done, seems like probably not the best move for Wakanda as a whole.
Yeah, but nobody knows Wakanda exists yet. So it's sort of like this.
They know Wakanda exists, but they don't know that Wakanda is what it is.
Right. Well, but they also don't know that Black Panther is associated with Wakanda at that point, though, then, right?
I think they do, because in Civil War, they don't reveal who it is, but they reveal Black Panther. Like, Black Panther is on the media for the Civil War stuff.
Right, but
they just don't reveal that Chadwick's character T'Challa is the Black Panther.
But they know that he's related to Wakanda.
How?
Yeah. But they think that like Wakanda's like a poor farming area.
Yeah.
That just like happens to have this like nanotechnology superhero running around in it.
Well, he didn't have nanotech when he was revealed,
but you see my point.
No, yeah. I mean, but superheroes, you don't have to have a good country to get a superhero to show up. Maybe.
But I mean,
maybe.
All I'm saying is that it's like the thing where it's just like, oh yeah, if you fuck up the guy, you're just as bad as the guy is. Like I think that
I don't even think that's what they say or mean in that moment.
Either.
They're not saying he would be as bad as Claw because they're ready to kill him. Like, that's not the point there. And even before they go on the mission, T'Challa says that he's gonna kill. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
100%.
Okay, I guess.
Also, if they kill Claw, they're killing someone that the U.S. government was trying to get to, so it causes conflicts between the U.S. government and
there's a lot
Wakanda.
of optics around this point, I think.
Yeah. All right.
Okay. But I just want to be clear, like, they're not saying don't kill him because you'll be like him. They went out with the goal to either kill him or bring him back. Right. That was the goal.
And now they can't because too many people are watching.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Yep.
Okay.
Right.
Well, don't say it too many times because then it starts to sound bad. Anyways, so now we get to the Claw interrogation scene here, which a few things.
By the way, another cool scene.
Ahead.
I like Claw. Like fucking all the instances of Claw in this movie, pretty much. It's like he was probably the biggest standout to me, followed by Killmonger. I think I probably liked Claw slightly more than I liked Killmonger, just because I think that like Claw brought a very sort of like cartoonish, almost sort of funny, sort of like wacky kind of vibe that I really liked. And then Killmonger, I think, just like slid into the role very nicely.
I mean, you do have to give credit here to Andy Serkis because his character was very shittily designed. Like, not only was his arm really poorly done, but also here in this moment when he doesn't have the arm, it looks really bad. Like, I don't know if you guys caught this as well, but like his arm on the side looks like his arm is CGI'd away or green screened away.
Yeah, totally.
Like his like the cuff of his like arm is like just perfect
like
and doesn't move in any way,
but like in a weird CGI sway, like no friction.
Yeah, it just like, man, he got a lot of really shitty like CGI stuff associated with him, and so his acting performance really had to stand out here, and I think it did. To Christian's point, I thought that was really good. Until, guess what's going to happen? Killmonger's going to come break Claw out because they took too long to take any action on this Claw guy. And so, by the way, Black Panther actually takes a grenade. Unlike Steve Rogers, that coward who only takes a fake grenade.
That's true.
Yeah.
Black Panther jumps on a real grenade.
I know. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait, but
So he's a real
like
hero.
a true patriot. Yeah.
doesn't
Yeah, like
Captain
a
America
true
like actually
patriot.
jump on a grenade with a shield or something at some point? He
Oh,
does,
you know what?
and
He
it's a
does
real
actually,
grenade.
so. Oh, damn.
Yeah.
You're right.
I know
was
more
just
than
thinking
Dan about the
I was
MCU. Point one for John.
Okay. And podcast is over. That was it. Agent Ross is shot. It hits his spine. And Black Panther sees, as Killmonger is driving away, the ring around his neck, which is the same ring that Black Panther has, T'Challa has as well, which leads him to realize, something is off about this guy. I should probably look into what happened here.
Yes. And he he says that out loud, and then he turns to the camera and then he winks.
And then he winks. Yeah,
something's off
There's
here.
a lot
I
of
should
winking in the
probably
MCU.
figure out what's going on with this guy.
Wink.
Yeah.
Anyway, so they decide that they're going to bring Agent Ross to Wakanda. They're actually going to do this, and when Shuri sees him, we get our first note that by the way, Bucky's still around, because she says, another broken white boy for us to fix.
Yep.
And at that moment, I know Christian stood up and started clapping.
I pulled my dick out. I was just spraying piss everywhere.
God damn.
I was just really excited.
Yeah, because what you've been waiting for this whole time
was the Bucky reveal.
When are we going to see
when
the
are
Winter
we
Soldier?
gonna see the Winter Soldier? That's no, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, we'll obviously get into that when he shows up again.
Of course,
but
yes.
man,
Yes.
I don't like Bucky. Jesus fucking
I
Christ.
know
That
you
is
don't.
like
I know.
just not great.
So this is a moment that I was kind of referring to earlier.
Okay.
And this is where Wakabi shows up and says, like, hey, where's Claw? Like, let's, how are we going to deal with him? What we're going to do? And T'Challa basically says, like, he slipped away. Like, he got away from us and we weren't able to take him. And this was like a really drastic turn in the attitude of Wakabi.
Yes.
Like, to first day becoming king, decides to go after Claw, doesn't get it done, but it's like T'Challa doesn't try to in any way like tell him what happened, what's going on, that they got more information, that there's a Wakandan out there, like
all this other
it?
shit. I know, and then also it's just a weird thing where it's like the only way that the plot can move forward is like all the characters need to like not communicate anything to each other, they would like in like a real world scenario, like there'd be more of a because then like even when like Killmonger shows up later and they're all like, and he's like, I'm challenging you for the throne or whatever the fuck, getting like a little ahead, but like at no point is like Black Panther just like, the reason that I was actually unable to get Claw was because you showed up and tried to kill me, and then with the guns, and it's the whole thing, where like if he had just said that, maybe the council would have been like, wait, what? That's new information. Yeah. Maybe we should hear. But instead, he's just like, I'll fight you and not explain any of this to anyone. It's just weird. Like it's just not organic,
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, so it was kind of, I don't know. That was a moment that I didn't really understand. Sure. It fell flat for me when that happened. So when Killmonger and Claw now are going to escape, he reveals that, hey, like, we're going to go back to Wakanda, but you're not going to be alive. And so Killmonger here kills Claw. This is the end of Claw in the MCU in a body bag. Yep. And that they're going to bring back, which, by the way, the girlfriend, I guess, or accomplice of Eric Stevens gets killed in this moment.
Yeah.
And seems like really a throwaway character. Like,
you think that she was a little bit of a throwaway character?
In the ambulance, like, I don't know. Like, this was really a weird.
And she gets like shot in the fucking head. Yeah. And then they're just like, well, anyway.
Yeah, like there was nothing. It was
on
really
top of that, they
weird.
don't even show Claw dying. He shoots him, and then they cut, and they don't show Claw dying.
And then he's in a bucket.
Yeah.
And I was like, what
so maybe he's not dead.
Maybe that's not actually Claw's body.
He's dead.
Maybe that's not actually Claw's body.
Yeah.
Maybe we're going to get we're going to get Claw
it's
round
vibranium.
two. Yeah, maybe he was saved by vibranium.
No. The body is vibranium. That's
it's like a vibranium hologram.
No, it's like a mannequin made out of vibranium.
Mannequin, like made of for sure.
A lifelike.
No.
Yeah, vibranium.
Yeah, and because you know what, it's so funny that you said that too, is because like I kind of completely forgot about Killmonger's girlfriend until you just, and I'm like, oh yeah, I guess she does just fucking die right there.
They
like I just kind of forgot that happened.
Put her in the movie so that you could show like how Killmonger literally doesn't give a fuck. And
that's like it's just like he's singularly focused on his one goal. I also thought it would have been cool because like he has like all the scars on his body for like every person that he killed. I thought it would have been a fun addition if he had added one after getting but he didn't.
Yeah. You know what? You're right. That would have
been
actually
that would have actually
really
just
cool
been like
moment.
a cool scene.
Well, he would have had to add like 4 because he killed like 4 people there. But
yeah. But legit, like that would have been like and even if it was just sort of like subtle, like like while he's walking up to Claw, he's just like getting himself like with it, and he's like, each one of these is for a person I fucking killed, and then he like does another one, then he shoots him. That would be cool. Anyway, but what you gonna do?
Yeah. Yep. This is again why the three of us should be running the MCU. I think that's what we've gathered.
I would have added that scene in.
So Disney,
Kevin Feige, Dan's address is Tucson, Arizona.
And Disney will cut out the part about Stan Lee in this episode if you contact us. So
100%,
just let us know.
But you have to contact us or it stays in.
Yeah, exactly. T'Challa confronts Zuri here to find out what happened with Njobu. And this is where we get the real flashback of what happened to Njobu, and that T'Chaka in this moment killed Njobu to save Zuri's life, and that they left the child behind, which, okay, to your point here, I think you mentioned it earlier, he didn't have to kill Njobu. Like,
he could have just disarmed him.
Yeah, they could have disarmed him, or he could have stepped in front of the bullet because he's wearing vibranium suit.
Yeah,
because he's a literal bulletproof
man.
And
he has superhuman reflexes and speed.
Yeah.
So
this is a classic Marvel moment.
It's a pretty classic Marvel moment.
There's no defense here. Like, this was objectively a really not well thought out scene. Like, there could have been other ways that Njobu could have been killed here. But it's like, hey, we ran out of time to write the rest of this movie. Just like kill him with Panther claws. All right, cool. Let's move on to the next thing.
Right.
It didn't really make a ton of sense. But I guess to drive Killmonger, he needed to see that the way his father died was from Panther claws in his chest.
But it's also like, how the fuck would he know what that meant anyway?
Well, his father did tell him about Wakanda, right? Like, he didn't hide the fact that they were from Wakanda.
Yeah, but like at that point, like Black Panther, I think the thing I keep getting held up on is like how much Black Panther is known versus how much Black Panther is not known.
Well, they're from Wakanda, so they know everything about Black Panther and the King and everything there. So he's communicating to his son what Wakanda is.
Yeah. Okay. So they like had a conversation where he's like, by the way, there's like a guy that's my brother that dresses up like a panther and has like a panther suit and shit.
Yeah.
Well, he is Prince Njobu.
Right.
So clearly he's like part of the royal family, which an inevitable question would be, who's the king? Who's Black Panther? Like, they talk about this stuff, right? I don't.
But
think
also the kid's like 8. I don't think, like I'm just like, maybe, sure, maybe you're right. Maybe that happened. That would sure.
I mean, especially because he's a kid, that would be even more of a reason to tell the story about the protector of Wakanda.
Sure.
Yeah.
Being the Black Panther.
Yeah,
I mean, I know you didn't grow up with fairy tales and stories, which led to who you are today, which is a person that aggressively hates superhero movies and other things like that.
I was chained to a radiator until I was 12 years old.
Yep, I could see that actually. So, so this is where Killmonger shows up in Wakanda with a blue body bag, and immediately, without question, W'Kabi is loyal to Killmonger.
Okay. Yeah. And here's my thing about this too, is I'm like, how the fuck does like he know that he's looking for Claw? Like, he just sort of like shows up right where the dude is and then like drops off a dead body in front of him, and then it's just kind of like, here, you know, like.
Well, remember, W'Kabi's part of the Border Tribe. The Border Tribe is responsible for the border of Wakanda, which means anyone coming near the border of the force field or coming into it, they are the first people at that gate.
Yeah.
Sure, yeah, that's fine, but he just like knows that, like, it was just like convenient, I guess, because it's just like he just like drops the body down and he just sort of like knows that this dude is going to be like loyal to him if he gives him the body of Claw, like.
Well, he doesn't know that, but what he does know is that Wakanda has been going after Claw for many years. That was his ticket into Wakanda.
Got it.
Claw was known to have stolen vibranium because they were working together, by the way. Like, you know, they're working together. Killmonger is very aware that Claw is like an enemy of Wakanda.
That's who Killmonger's dad was working with in the beginning. So, yeah.
To take away vibranium from Wakanda, helped him get into Wakanda. It's very clear, like, Claw was a ticket to get in front of the council.
Yeah, this movie turned my brain into fucking mush. But you're right. That makes sense.
Thanks.
I will give you that point. Black Panther is truly the greatest movie I've ever seen.
Okay. All right. Well, Agent Ross, our version of a piece of white bread in this movie, has now woken up and is in Wakanda in a very high-tech room, which definitely would not be anywhere in the U.S.
Yeah, and I want to like point something out. I don't know if you guys felt similar to this or not. The first time we saw the room, it felt different than it felt like when Ross woke up in the room. Like, for whatever reason, like the first time I kind of bought it, and the second time, like, it really felt like a movie set. Like, it was like weird, like the disparity between it. Like,
There were different parts of the science bay, which included a medical bay. So what we're seeing there is not the science and technology area. This is like the medical bay focused on healing. Right.
Yeah, this one
so it did have a different vibe.
Yeah, I didn't buy the set as much. Like, it almost sort of felt like a cheesy 80s sci-fi kind of thing.
Like what would be the stereotypical futuristic look at a medical bay from a 1980s movie.
Yeah, exactly. But like I can't even really like put it into words well. It felt off to me. Like, when he woke up, it didn't feel as good as it did the first time that we were seeing like her whole lab setup.
And this is where Agent Ross kind of gets his first view of Wakanda. He sees like the trains, and he sees somehow that he knows how the trains are like on these tracks with magnetic whatever
because
fields.
Vibranium is magical ore, and it does fucking everything. It like turns on things and it turns off things, and it hovers and it goes fast and it goes slow. Yeah.
But you can turn off vibranium with sonic stabilizers, by the way. Remember that for a future part of the movie.
Okay, yeah, I'll keep that
because that's going to be real important.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. He reveals that Killmonger is actually part of the U.S. government, that they worked together for many years, that he was deployed out to many different countries and killed so many people that he was deemed Killmonger during that time. And that's where he got his name. Nakia and T'Challa talk about T'Chaka killing his brother here, which is like, again, multiple situations where nobody's getting burials. Like, they're just killing Wakandans off more often than I think everyone was aware of. And this is creating an internal conflict within Wakanda, and now Killmonger is before the council to present Claw as a ticket into Wakanda. Nobody believes that this guy is Wakandan at first, and this is where he's going to go for the throne.
Right, okay.
And T'Challa's already aware of his whole backstory at this point.
Yes.
And so it's like, what's your plan here?
I know. Well, and again, it's like another classic example. It's like so much shit could just be solved through like just simple communication.
Words.
Just 2 or 3 sentences, just clearing everything up. Let's get this guy out of the throne room. We'll reconvene. We'll figure out what to do next. You know?
Yeah, just like say something. You're already saying it to him,
right?
And he could at any moment just control the narrative.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which
he does.
He ends up controlling.
Yeah. So it's like, yeah, totally. Right. And then because also the thing, he's just like, okay, now we need to fight. And it's like, you know, it also seemed kind of weird because it's like, can Black Panther just like say no to that? Because it seems like they were like kind of giving him the option. So like, so then you would just kind of be like, no,
thanks.
no, but okay, but listen up, everyone. Things are getting pretty crazy here. Let me just explain to you the situation, and then everyone says, "Oh, okay, we should probably get this guy out of Wakanda," and then the movie's over.
Yeah. Well, the problem is that Killmonger has immediately already gotten the respect and the buy-in from the border tribe, and so now one of the 4 tribes that are part of the council are already against T'Challa, right? So it's like, what battle is he going to choose here? Is he going to choose to go against an entire tribe as part of the council, or is he going to just take up this fight against Killmonger to put an end to it once and for all? Right. So that's the way that I
I think you're right. That's how I see it too. I'm just saying that, like,
if it ever needed to get to that point,
right? I'm just saying the way that
it
comes about is like goofy, like they get there in a goofy way.
Yeah, and this is where we kind of get more of a monologue from Killmonger about like what his actual intentions are here and what he thinks about Wakanda. How they're all kind of sitting comfortable here in this part of the world while people that look like them all across the world, 2 billion people, are suffering while they're hanging out here in like luxury, essentially, and this amazing technology.
Correct.
And it's clear that,
which once again, he has a point. It is, if you were to suppose the existence of an actual Wakanda, it would be kind of fucked up for them to just be sort of sitting there secretly.
I mean, he makes points here that T'Challa can't like say anything.
Yeah.
He says, didn't life start on this continent? Like, so aren't all people your people?
Yeah.
Like, what's the confusion here?
Right.
And so he reveals that he is the son of Njobu, and the line "Hey Auntie" was improvised by Michael B. Jordan.
Wow,
in that
what
moment,
a genius!
Which I know, what a genius. Anyway, so now he's gonna challenge Black Panther, T'Challa, to fight for the throne, and they get the powers removed, and this is where we get not generic fight number 2 at the waterfall, but this time without a lot of the ceremony and the tribes and everyone else showing up. This is like a much more muted nighttime or evening time version of this ceremony.
Yeah.
Because the less time he's here, the better.
Right. And again, of course, he has to lose, which is, just narratively speaking, I'm just saying this movie gets pretty cliche, which to me makes a lot of the tension not super interesting. Like, I think that, like, there are ways in which you can do things where you kind of, as the audience, know what the outcome is going to be, but at the very least, the sort of how we get there is maybe kind of interesting or whatever. Mm-hmm. This doesn't really do that for me, because the how we get there isn't really that important, because there's just no fucking way that Black Panther can win this fight and keep the structure of the story continuing in the direction that it's going. And so I didn't think that this was a super compelling fight. Though I almost kind of wanted it to be, because it's like two fun characters, and I thought that like them going in and him sort of doing like the slashes to the arms, like slowly disabling like him one limited time, like he's almost kind of fucking with him. Like there was like some fun moments to be had in here, but ultimately it's just sort of like that like one way or another he can't be allowed to like walk out of this fucking thing, and Killmonger is not the kind of dude that's going to just submit him and then let him go. That's against his whole fucking thing. So that like a death needs to occur. Like it's just like I just feel like going into this, I was like, you could have skipped me ahead like 10 minutes and I wouldn't have been confused about where I was at in the movie, because it just has to happen the way that it happened.
Yeah. I will say that I believed the aggressiveness of Killmonger in this fight. Sure. Like, to your point, the slicing of like his leg and his chest and other things. And then like I believe that he is actually trying to kill T'Challa. Like, there is no question here that he is extremely aggressive and his goal is just to kill. Mm-hmm. Like, there's no, well, he's Wakanda, maybe we're cousins or whatever. It's like, no, this guy's going to kill you. And it's not often that you see that kind of aggressiveness in the MCU, which leads to him throwing T'Challa off of the waterfall and becoming king. Yeah. King of Wakanda.
And then roll credits. That's a podcast.
And roll credits, and that's it. Yeah. So this begins now kind of the downfall of at least, certain parts of Wakanda. The Queen Mother and Shuri escape with Nakia. And Okoye shows for the first time, like, I'm not going with you. Like, I have to serve the throne regardless of who's on it. Yep. And so does the Dora Milaje. And that's it. And this, by the way, this decision is something that plays into the future of the MCU with Okoye's storyline. So like this decision makes waves kind of in the future movies as well, and how Okoye is kind of looked at after T'Challa becomes king again and things go back to normal in in Wakanda. Sure. And so Killmonger takes the heart-shaped herb, goes to the ancestral plane, and he is now in the apartment that he grew up in, talking to his dad about Wakanda. And Njobu says that the sunsets are the most beautiful in the world in Wakanda.
Right, and keep that in mind, because we're going to get a stupid fucking scene later that's going to reference that.
Killmonger here decides that he's going to burn down the entire garden of heart-shaped herbs.
That was cool. I like that.
He's the last king. Yeah. He's like, you don't need any other kings besides me. Yeah. And which this is their entire supply, by the way. This isn't something where it's like, oh, well, they could just like grow more later, by the way. Like this moving forward canon is like all of the heart-shaped herbs they have.
Right.
Once this garden is destroyed, they are gone.
Right.
And so Nakia does sneak in and steal one last heart-shaped herb before the entire thing burns down.
It's just like it's like anytime we get sort of like a sneak in grab kind of thing. Mm-hmm. Again, it's like tropey, cliche. It's very sort of like, of course she's gonna go in and like get the one last one that they're gonna need to give to the fucking dude later. Yep. That's all I really have to say about that. It's just just the structure, the way things happen in this movie is just very, very by the book.
Yeah, well, Killmonger waits no time here. As soon as he's king, he immediately heads to the council and reveals his plan to literally take over the world.
Right, and he says,
make Wakanda the leader.
Specifically the line, "The sun will never set on the Wakandan Empire," which I felt was a little on the fucking nose personally, but hey, I didn't write this movie, so whatever. But yeah, I was kind of like, whatever, like into the character, like up. I mean, and still, into the character motivations, I suppose, like in the sense that it's believable, like it makes for a full character.
Yeah.
But the sun will never set on the Wakandan Empire line, again, just felt like a little ham-fist. That was a little heavy-handed for me. As far as I would have tweaked that one in the writer's room a bit, but What you gonna do?
The other thing is, like all these people are so tied to tradition that like they are all just like, yeah, we'll go along with it. Like we can't say no to the king who just became king, 20 seconds ago, and burned down. Like there's so much that people could have done to stop Killmonger, but they just decided, nah, it's our rules, so we gotta follow them, and it's, I don't know, it makes Wakanda really stupid to me.
Yeah.
Well, I guess that's why we're gonna head to the Jabari tribe and see M'Baku, because if there's someone who is not a fan of the way Wakanda is running, it is M'Baku.
Right.
And so we get Ross, Nakia, Shuri, and the Queen Mother going to see M'Baku to see if they will be able to help him or help them take back Wakanda from Killmonger, which M'Baku is not super interested in helping out here. And Agent Ross tries to talk, and it's probably not your moment to lead these negotiations, Agent Ross. He says he's going to feed him to his children. Just kidding, they're vegetarians.
Ha ha ha. It's funny. It's funny line.
I laughed, I know. But I also just like M'Baku as a character.
Sure. Yeah, I do.
They offer the herb to him, and he could take it, and he doesn't. Which is, I don't know if this is like a what do you call it? Like, because he knows at this point they have T'Challa's body.
Right. Yeah.
Obviously, they know this, right? And so, I guess the question is, earlier in the movie, he was fighting T'Challa to become king. So, is it like a it's not morality, but like a honor? Like, is it some type of honor that he just doesn't reveal T'Challa's body, takes the herb, and becomes Black Panther? I guess in this moment, it's not super clear, but the way that I kind of like see it is his honor wouldn't let him just say that, but also it kind of gets revealed that it's like a life for a life.
Yeah.
He didn't kill M'Baku at the fight, and so...
No, but I agree with you. It felt like that was like strange, because like sort of from what we had seen of the character up until that point, it almost sort of seems like he would just be like, all right, yeah, fuck it, let's go. I mean, he obviously had the ambition to become the king of Wakanda, and then that like just sort of drains out of him in this moment, and he's like, you know what, dude, I think you're better suited for the role, actually. And it's like, you guys were just fighting for that, like fucking,
I think it probably is just whatever. Pride, because like it's like it's kind of like winning unfairly, especially after he had just been granted mercy by T'Challa. So
that's a good point. Yeah, I could see that. So they give the herb to T'Challa to see if they could save his life, and he's back on the ancestral plane.
He's like in the fucking snow. They're like, why is he in the snow? It's like, it's the only thing keeping him alive.
Well,
and
to
everyone's
be fair,
like,
that's scientifically like accurate.
Yeah, I feel like that's like, if anything, that's probably the closest thing to actual science in this movie, like compared to everything else.
There is, how much time has passed since he got thrown off of that waterfall to then? We're talking like
24 hours, maybe less.
Yeah, there's just no way, dude.
Like maybe 12 hours since it happened.
12 maybe.
Actually, no. It can't be, because they immediately left as soon as Killmonger is crowned king. I would imagine within maybe 3 to 4 hours they're at the Jabari tribe. Because it's immediately he becomes king, he turns into Black Panther, and they're there now. Like, when he turns into Black Panther, that's when Nakia takes the herb. So we're 2 to 3 hours after that event happens.
All right, then, sure. Yeah, fuck it. He can be in snow. Why not?
So the ice made sense.
Yeah.
Another point for this movie.
Yeah, it turns out I love this movie. It's crazy.
I know. Back at the ancestral plane, this is where T'Challa confronts T'Chaka on his choice to leave the kid behind. And I think this is also the moment where T'Challa realizes, like, we got to stop turning our back on the world. Like, this is kind of the moment where he's understood what Killmonger has been saying, and also understands why Killmonger is the way he is. And if he doesn't find a middle ground between these two paths of like staying hidden and deploying their resources to everyone in the world to take over it, it's gonna just be bad forever. He's got to find a middle ground. Right. And so that's what he gets out of this. And then T'Challa lives.
Yep.
He's alive.
Yep.
He's back. And so as they are prepping for taking over the world,
I also just want to throw out there, T'Challa, right? He's alive, and he goes to the M'Baku dude, and he's like,
oh yeah, he talks to them,
talks to him, and he's basically just like, hey, help me get the fucking thing back. And the guy's like, no, I will not help you. Which is another very classic movie trope, which I wrote down.
Because you know he's going to show up later.
Because you know he's going to show up. So it's like,
sure.
So just have him say yes. Like, because it's not even like we're like so emotionally connected to these characters at this point that like him showing up is this like impactful thing. It's like really he could have just been like, yeah, okay, fuck, let's go fuck him up. And it like would have just been the same narrative. Like, but instead you have to like throw in this sort of this like this twist. It's like, oh, it's a twist. Actually, they do show up. Wow, you know, like it's just it's nothing. It's just literally nothing.
By the way, I did skip over a part here, which was when they're kind of talking about their next steps together of what they're going to do to take over the throne again. At some point, it reveals that M'Baku is sitting there on the throne listening to them, and he's yawning super loud. Yeah. And then I wrote, sounds like Christian. Yeah. And guess what? I was right.
You were, yep, 100%. Yep.
Yep. I was like, I bet Christian is also yawning right now.
This one was fucking brutal, man. It's like this movie did not need to be like 8 hours long or whatever the fuck. Like, it
was really the same amount of time as like the past 5 MCU
which
movies.
Also all did not need to be that long either. God damn.
Wait until Eternals.
Yeah.
That's no. Yeah, no, never just you don't have to watch Eternals ever. I mean, you're never going to, and it's never going to happen. Yeah. But like if there was an MCU movie that I got bored with besides Dark World, it was Eternals. Yeah. Like
how long
and that was
Eternals?
I think 2 hours and 45 minutes or something.
So it's like the length of like a Peter Jackson Lord of the Rings director's cut.
Yes. Yeah, it was.
That's a lot, dude.
Aggressively
2 hours and 37 minutes.
Ugh.
Yeah,
that's like far too. That's an ask. You know what I mean?
Well, get ready for Endgame because that's 3 hours and 2 minutes.
Well, but at least with that, I'm like,
at least it's Endgame.
At least that's Endgame. Yeah, it's like so. Even if I fucking hate it, we're done, and it'll make me like it. You know.
I just have to get over this terrible torture, and then I'll be done.
Fucking thing. Yeah.
Oh God. All right. Well, anyways. At this point here, this is where it's revealed that T'Challa is alive. They shoot down one of the first planes that's going out to spread these weapons to the world, and that's when Black Panther appears and says, "The challenge isn't complete. I'm not dead, and I didn't yield." And then W'Kabi doesn't care. Yeah. He listens to Killmonger's orders, and Okoye at this moment is like, wait a minute, okay, I got it now. I see that I can't just follow the throne. A little too late for that, by the way. But this is what kicks off the final fight of the movie between like 4 different groups of folks across this entire land of Wakanda, and also then later into the mines of Wakanda.
So I don't think I'm just being a hashtag hater for saying this. I think seriously,
get ready for a new text message calling you out being a hater.
I hope not. I hope nobody calls me out on being a hater, because I think if I'm looking at it objectively, and I'd be interested to know, because again, I stayed in my position. I really didn't like this. I found this movie boring. It was a chore. But if I'm just taking my own personal feelings out of it for a minute and just being objective, I still feel like this is the weakest point of the movie. Like, all of my opinions aside, this like final thing, there is so much happening, and the gravity of it is almost kind of lessened by the fact that the visuals are not that good in a lot of the points. And like, there's so much you need to be kind of paying attention to, because it's like bouncing back and forth from all these different things that it almost sort of feels like the magnitude of one of the things is like lessened from the other one, which is lessened from the other one, because there's just so much happening. So all of the conflict is going to have to be resolved in a way that's favorable towards the protagonist, because you couldn't really have like one of those things go awry, because it would like send all the other things into chaos. So all the shit needs to get wrapped up. Does that make sense? Like, I don't know. I just sort of felt like there weren't really stakes here. Like it was like nothing could go wrong. Because if you wrote the story in such a way where any of this went wrong, it would like domino tumble Wakanda down, and they're not going to do that. So this all needs to just be wrapped up in like a neat bow.
So I feel like I kind of agree. Kind of.
Sure.
I feel like the most important parts of this final fight weren't focused on enough, which was the most important thing here was that they wanted to prevent the technology from being spread across the world without context, without training, without information. And so the whole idea really is Agent Ross has the most important part of this entire scene, which is preventing the ships from leaving Wakanda, right? But there's very little focus on that part of it, and it's more towards just Killmonger as a person, which, by the way, doesn't matter as much because now the Dora Milaje have decided they're not going to listen to Killmonger anymore, right? So like they've lessened all of the potential most important story threads for this final act to be kind of split evenly, and there's no one stake that like you're focusing on throughout the end of this movie. Does that like make sense, I guess?
Yes.
Like there's too many stakes, so none of them seem as important.
Right, which is kind of exactly what I was saying too. Where it's like it's like so many plates spinning, and they're all gonna need to get resolved, and they will, and there's just like not a lot of tension. Like it's almost like more tense when there's like one thing happening, and like the fate of this one thing has consequences, and even if it doesn't go perfectly, there are still consequences. Like, because like kind of like to your point, like, you know, if it had sort of been a thing where it's like just Ross, like, and that was like the main focus, and then like one of the ships actually gets away or whatever, that would have like further reaching implications, which could be sort of interesting, but it's not gonna go down like that, because there's just so many things happening at once that they're going to need to wrap all of them up.
Yeah, like if the Killmonger and Black Panther fight happened like on the top of flying ships leading out, and Agent Ross was like blowing up other ships around them,
that could have been cool.
Like all kind of packaged in the same storyline.
Oh yeah, because then also there's sort of like the implication that it's like Black Panther knows that like the ships need to be destroyed, and then he maybe has to make like some sort of moral judgment to like sacrifice his own life in order to make sure that the vibranium doesn't make. That would be way more compelling than what happened.
And then he gets in one of those planes at the end and drives it into an iceberg and then stays in there for 70 years.
Yes.
Yeah. Because they don't have the technology to pull him out of an iceberg.
It took 70 years to like fucking get the technology.
Anyways,
vibranium hasn't like accomplished the ability to drill through ice yet.
Exactly. Yeah. Ice is the only thing stronger than vibranium. Okay, so real quick, so this part here now where it's like we get a bunch of fighting and all that, but I did want to jump to this part, which is we get like 5 sequences of countdowns in 2
Yes. Yeah, dude. And I was noticing this too.
Which this is another hold on. Welcome back to another instance of Christian ruining movies for me. And this is another scene where that happens. Go ahead, Christian, please.
No, that was literally it. I am so happy that you now have started to notice these things that I fucking hate in media. Because, dude, that thing where it's just like, as soon as it's like, it's like window integrity at 50%. I'm just like, Jesus Christ, dude. Like,
well, yeah. So it was like there were 2. The problem is like it all stacked up together at the same time. First, Killmonger and Black Panther are on the train tracks with the worst CGI in the MCU, I think, except for maybe Peter's jump in Guardians of the Galaxy 1. Right?
Yeah,
okay, so maybe except for that. But like, man, the CGI was aggressively terrible. And then it goes to Ross, who then glass integrity 50%. And then I wrote, because I didn't remember all of this. I was like, we love a good countdown.
Love
right?
a good
Of course.
countdown.
We love a good countdown. Yeah. And then everyone is in trouble. All hope is lost. And then we get another countdown from Wakabi, who's surrounded the group and says, you have 3 seconds to lay down your weapons.
Right.
And it just so happens at 2 seconds, the Jabari tribe shows up with M'Baku to help.
Who could have possibly seen that coming, by the way? That was the craziest
twist. And then,
not me.
But that's not even it. And then we get another glass integrity at 15%, and the system has to reboot, and that's going to take 5 seconds for the plane that Ross is flying to reboot. It takes 5 seconds, and then it turns on right before reaching the ground, and that is 2 minutes of the movie.
Even numbers can be
Everything
so
I just
exciting.
described was in 2 minutes.
Oh, man. Yeah, that's really funny, dude.
Like, I would have never cared about this in the past. Never.
No, again, dude, it's super cheesy tension building. Like, that's it. It's like, it's just whatever. You've heard my thoughts on it a million times, but I'm so happy that I've given you that gift. That is my gift to you. Notice that in all things you watch.
It's like they made it to, like, piss you off specifically.
Dude, it's not like the third act, man. Fucking dang, dude. Yeah, if I didn't like it up till this point, around here I really started to not like it.
Again, like, I did like this movie, and again, a lot of it falls into like seeing cultures and art and direction that we haven't really seen before, but it definitely is in a cookie cutter method. Right? Like, even Wonder Woman to an extent was the same deal, where it was like, it was kind of cookie cutter, like, superhero story, but the overarching, like, themes and art direction and characters and actresses that they put in place, like, made a really kind of meaningful movie in that way. So it's a balance for me when I see this.
Also sucks. Sorry.
The first Wonder Woman movie did not. The second one was absolutely terrible. Well,
the first one sucked. The second one sucked
I'm
more.
just objectively you're wrong. So, just you're wrong. It's fine though. You're wrong. Anyway, the border tribe has now given up.
Yep.
So that's it.
Which and also I just want to throw something else out there too. It's a minor fucking nitpick for shit like this, but it's like, why are like any of these people like fighting the Black Panther suit guy? Like it's like that shit almost kind of doesn't make sense to me in the context of like, you know, when they're like out on the field and like dudes are like running at him. It's like he has like a fucking like mesh vibranium suit. Like, you guys know what this is.
Well, they have vibranium weapons.
Yeah, but it's like,
so this is an even fight.
But it's still like, it's like shit's just like bouncing off of him while he's just like going postal and just like you would think all the people that like lived in Wakanda would know the lore of the dude who ate the magic flower and had like the nanotechnology enough to be like, oh fuck, let's get away from this guy. Like, and then they just don't, you know? It's like, but
this also comes down to like the fact also that they are listening to the king of Wakanda.
Yeah, but there's like more things happening on the battlefield, you know? Just focus on those.
Not for the border tribe, though. No. That's the thing. The border tribe is solely focused on listening to the directions of the king of Wakanda. Sure. That is their sole purpose. You could make arguments against like Okoye directly, who's like more integrated into the more nuances of the relationships. But like, we're talking about the border tribe, which again is like at the borders of Wakanda, kind of more disconnected from the rest of what's happening. So that's kind of just the way I view it. Anyways, one of the rhinos goes to charge at T'Challa, and Okoye steps in front of it and licks her face.
Yes.
Like a good boy.
Because, yeah, exactly. And that's when she reveals that she would kill W'Kabi for Wakanda without question, which is when W'Kabi decides to lay down his weapon, followed shortly by the rest of the border tribe. And that ends that part of it. We're now back with Killmonger and Black Panther, where the sonic things are turning off the vibranium suits that they're wearing, and they're kind of like messing with it. This terrible CGI ends with Black Panther stabbing Killmonger in the chest while the vibranium suit is messed up. And then right at the end of the sonic stabilizers being turned on, which then the nanotech like holds the knife in place, I guess.
Yep. And then he gives him like, you're pretty good, which is a line from Revolver Ocelot in Metal Gear Solid 3. He gives him a nice Metal Gear Solid 3 Revolver Ocelot.
Yeah.
Yeah, a classic one. Everyone would know that reference for sure. That's you really speak to the community with so that. So. Yeah. T'Challa takes Killmonger back up to the top, and they're sitting outside there at the sunset.
Fucking stupid. like my father said that sunsets in Wakanda were the best sunsets ever, and Wakanda was such a beautiful place. He gives him like the monologue, and then they like go up there, and he's like, "Wow, it truly is beautiful." It's just like, I don't know, it's just cheesy. It's just like such a cheesy fucking send off to Killmonger. And wasn't he like in Wakanda like all this time anyway? Is this like the first like Wakandan sunset that he's seen, or is he just like is he just enamored
it's all
with
back
it
to
now?
back.
Because it's so he just like so he just got there, so he didn't actually get the chance to see the sunset.
Yeah, I think he's been there for like one
was...
night, and then the last sunset was when he tossed T'Challa off of the cliff. So he wasn't around to look at the sunset, and then night passed, and
because he became Black Panther, so he was very busy.
Yeah.
Sure,
yeah. To do.
He was just...
And then he's like, "Oh, it turns out that it is beautiful, the sunset here, and just like the slaves that jumped off of the ships, I refuse to be subjugated as well. Good night." And then he rips the thing out of his chest and dies.
Yeah, which again, like, okay, like no blood, not really clear why that kills him,
because like once you rip out the blade, then the blood flow goes, and
you instantly die with no like blood spurting out or anything, and it's in the center of your chest, and it's not through your heart.
This is what happened. You ready for it?
Here we go.
He pulls it out, but the nanofiber is repairing the suit. When he takes it all the way, he is bleeding out, but it's just inside of the Black Panther suit, so you can't see the blood.
Yeah, and then all the blood kind of like fills up the nanite suit, but the nanite suit doesn't budge. So like all the blood is coming out, but it's kind of squeezing his body's inside the suit.
Also, did we forget at this moment that he's also Black Panther and has super strength and healing and wasn't stabbed through the heart, which means no vital organ was pierced, which means
hold on. Do the Black Panthers have like a healing factor?
You're right. He has the regeneration of the Black Panther.
It's basically super serum, like Captain America.
Word. Well, okay, that's fucking stupid then. I didn't realize. I did not realize that they got like super healing.
It just wasn't clear like how. Well, I mean, think about it. T'Challa was clinging on to life before they put the herb in his body, which healed him.
Yeah, I guess that's fair. I thought it might just be some weird ghost dad shit, you know?
No, Ghost Dad didn't heal him.
I don't know. You know, just like he goes to the spirit plane, he's like, "Okay, my son, keep living," or whatever. It's like Star Wars.
Yeah, it's just it's unfortunate because I feel like there could have been a way to kill Killmonger, but also maybe they didn't have to kill him.
Should have thrown him off the fucking cliff. That would have been poetic and cool. at the sunset. You know what I mean?
But then would it have been better because then they would have ended the movie with seeing Killmonger up on the shore and he opens his eye and then it cuts to black?
He opens his eye and then his eye turns towards the camera and he winks and then it cuts to black.
There it is. Da, 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 da.
Oh, fuck, dude. Honestly, that would have been a cooler outro scene than Bucky fucking Barnes. I'll, throw that out there.
this is your favorite part here. T'Challa thanks Nakia for helping them save Wakanda. They kiss. He asked her to stay and says, I have an idea for your calling.
Right, which again, I threw it out way in the beginning of the podcast. This was just like weird as fuck to me because again, it almost seemed like it was like building towards it, but it really wasn't building towards this at all. So then they just kind of kiss. And it's like, who gives a fuck? You know, like it just like doesn't matter.
Yeah. I mean, sure. There's not really any reason to disagree with what you're saying there. And so they head back to the neighborhood in Oakland, but Shuri thought that they were going to Coachella or Disneyland. But that was not the case. They're building their first Wakandan International Outreach Center, and Shuri is going to run the science and information exchange, which ends with this kid walking up on T'Challa and saying, "Who are you?"
He goes, "Well, actually, he goes, who are you?" He does a little stutter with the who.
Yeah, well, sorry, I didn't catch that part.
Chris misquoted him blatantly. It was not cool.
Blatantly, yeah. And then T'Challa gives a little smirk, and then he looks at the camera and he winks.
And then he shrugs.
And then he winks. And that is Black Panther. But not...
Yeah.
Okay, not before we get two credit scenes here. One is mid-credit, where this is T'Challa actually revealing Wakanda to the world. They're going to begin sharing their information. But what are a bunch of farmers going to teach us?
And then
another smirks.
And then he looks at the camera and winks.
And he winks. Oh, God. And then the best part of the movie happens, which is the end credit scene where we get the reveal that Bucky's is here and he's feeling good.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Thank goodness. I was really concerned that he wouldn't show up again.
I was worried that maybe they would have killed Bucky off and we wouldn't have been able to see him again in these movies. But fortunately for me, we get more Bucky, presumably in the Avengers, the next one. I would imagine we'll probably see him again there.
Maybe.
That seems reasonable, as I believe those Avengers Infinity War and Endgame feature, I think the total number of villains and heroes that appear in those movies are 65 different heroes and villains from the MCU.
Wow. That's like almost a Smash Bros. Roster.
Yeah.
Yeah, everybody is here.
I will say something that's like kind of interesting. It's like, I know, like, Thanos getting the Infinity Gauntlet and snapping and erasing half of the fucking like people is like a big deal that happens and whatever. Like, I mean, it was a big enough deal that like
it's a cultural
that
moment
I got like
where you
that
hear
I'm like
it.
spoiled on it because it was that big a deal, even though I don't pay attention to any of this shit even slightly, And so that being, it's interesting to me that we're at this point, and like there really hasn't been like that much of a buildup for Thanos, like we've sort of seen like little parts like speckled in throughout the thing a bit, and like we know the Infinity Stones or whatever, but I would have sort of assumed that like Phase 3 would be like this like long buildup towards the actual thing.
Well, remember, we also get like 3 movies in between Infinity War and Endgame. Right. And also, Infinity War does kind of explain some of the background stuff that has happened over the course of the phases as well. Word. So we're going to see more about that. And also, we left off of Thor Ragnarok at the very end with their ship getting confronted by a much larger ship. So the question is, who was on the larger ship? And being that we're only one movie away from Infinity War, maybe that will play into the start of it.
Yeah, maybe.
Who knows?
We'll see.
Maybe. But that's it. Black Panther will return in Infinity War, which, by the way, is the next movie. We are at Avengers Infinity War. Yeah. This has been a journey, man. I did not I mean, we've done other content kind of creation things in the past, but I think this is probably the most consistent one that I've ever been a part of.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I agree with that. And also, it's like, I don't know, man. I mean, I feel like my brand often, if anybody out there has followed my content creation journey, or perhaps you haven't, but
illustrious
content creator, partner Twitch streamer, by the way, full time for many years. People gave me lots of money and showered me with
tens of dollars,
multiple hundreds of dollars over the years.
Wow,
just to be fair,
very impressed.
But no, my brand is you're probably like somewhat cliched out at this point, like millennial, so slathered in irony, it's shitty on purpose, and it's hard to tell what's real and what isn't. So I gotta say, doing something like this and actually like trying to like take it seriously and like put some effort into it, it's been fun. Like I'm like, this is totally different than the normal kind of thing I do, and I have been enjoying myself. We are at the point in which I say what I liked. Dan says what he didn't like.
By the way, I realized as we got to the end, we never got any Allison thoughts.
That's true.
Was she asleep? Or
she wasn't there. I watched it in the afternoon because I had to install some ceiling fans last night, which I did, by the way.
Congrats on that.
Wow, very good work.
Yeah, thank you so much. But
nobody stand underneath them.
Yeah, well, hey, you know what? It's on right now. It's looking good, I gotta say. But yeah, she didn't watch this one with me. The only way it worked in my schedule was I had to watch it while she was at work so I could get the fans installed later that night.
Disappointing.
Yep, I know. I'm sure she would have had thoughts. All right, what we liked, what we didn't, take it out. I mean, I've already kind of said it throughout the the thing. I think probably like what I liked, Killmonger is kind of fun. Claw is kind of fun. And I actually think, like, honestly, to piggyback off of Dan's point from earlier, I think you're right, probably. If there's, like, one thing that I could maybe say that I like, it's a very different setting than what we normally get in Marvel movies. I think that was kind of cool. I think, like, the, basically all black cast was pretty cool. I thought that it was acted nicely, like, when it needed to be. And I thought that sort of the background being this kind of like futuristic Africa sort of scape was interesting and kind of unlike other things that we've seen out of the media before, I think. And honestly, I mean, I legitimately do think representation in media matters and is cool. So it's cool to like see a film with just a lot of different kind of varieties of African cultures being depicted, and you don't get to see shit like that often, and so tight, like honestly fun, cool, whatever. I thought that that was sick, and now without further ado, I'm gonna give this movie a 2. I thought it was painfully fucking boring. Painfully, dude. This was rough for me to get through. Very cliche, very tropey. I don't know. Yeah, that's it. Yep. But I do mean everything else I said too. So sorry.
Okay.
But there you go.
Dan.
Great.
What didn't you like, Dan?
That makes sense. Oh goodness. Well, so here's what I didn't like. I didn't like the CGI.
Obviously.
It took me out of a lot of moments. It was like aggressively bad at certain points. Which again, normally bad CGI like is little moments that don't really take me out. In fact, a lot of times you guys know I don't even notice it when things are super aggressive. But like this was really, really poorly done. I also think that I agree that some of this story was very cookie cutter, and that we got the 2 minutes, 4 countdowns in 2 minutes at the end of this movie here was again just like another thing that takes it down for me. So the way that I'm looking at this rating is that I would rate the art direction, the cast, the like acting, and the overall like representation and all of that part of the movie, like the way that it looked and felt and all that, as like a 7.5 out of 10. But I would rate the like story and the moments like I mentioned and that kind of stuff at like a 5.5 out of 10. So I would put this at the middle at a 6.5 in total. Yeah.
All right.
So that's it.
It's getting hard to kind of give final thoughts on the movie with you guys giving like the dislikes and likes, because I pretty much agree with all of it. And I'm just like, how do I reiterate all this stuff without saying exactly what you guys just said? So I don't know. I think that this movie came at a point that it was like culturally significant with the all black cast. So it gets points for that for sure. It didn't feel, at least on release, it didn't feel like a throwaway movie. Like a lot of pieces were there and were quality enough that it did live up to like that cultural point. However, going back to it, rewatching it, I remember not liking this movie after rewatching it the first time. Like I watched it the first time, I was like, that was pretty cool. And I rewatched it. And then I kind of decided from that point on that this was one of the most overrated movies in the MCU and that it sucked. And then now watching it back like a third or fourth time, I don't know how many times I've seen it now, I have come to realize that it's not that bad. It's just that all of the other MCU movies suck so bad that this one is like really good in comparison. But that still doesn't make it good. Okay. So what I will say is the editing was kind of weird. Obviously the VFX was pretty bad throughout the entire thing. It's funny that Chadwick Boseman got a lot of accolades for this one because I didn't think his acting was the greatest in this movie. I also didn't think Michael B. Jordan's performance was that good either. Like he had some moments, but for the most part, I think like it was a pretty like I don't want to say amateurish performance, but it wasn't amazing. And yeah, there's a lot of plot shit that happens in this movie that isn't the greatest. So I think at the end of the day, I'm going to give this a 6 out of 10.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah. Well, one thing I'll throw out at the last note here is just you made an interesting point when you were talking about the movie and kind of the MCU as a whole. And I think there is something to be said about the original experience watching some of these movies and then the rewatching experience of watching some of these movies. I think part of why the MCU has been so successful over time is the magic of expanding in the universe of the MCU. The experience of like watching another movie that continues to expand versus taking the movie at face value and rating it just for the content of the movie itself. Right? Which is like the whole theater experience, the build up, the trailers, the conventions, like all of that leads to, I think, part of the reason why the MCU is successful, not because the individual movies are masterpieces that deserve to be nominated Best Pictures, right? So kind of an interesting point you brought up there, and I actually agree with you because I do feel like through this rewatch, I have probably rated them lower than where I would have rated them if you asked me after my first watch through.
Sure.
And I think
that makes sense.
I think adding on to that, like as we've been rating each of these movies as we go, I feel like there's like a power creep in my rating that's come up, and I kind of want to retroactively downgrade all of my other ratings by like 1 point so that like it remains consistent, because I've given a lot of things like 6s or 7s, but they're like better 6s and 7s as they go on.
I agree, by the way. Yeah, I 100% agree. But hey, that's a
podcast, gentlemen.
Catch us next time for the beginning of the end of Cape Shit, which is the one of two Avengers movies to end Phase 3 with Avengers Infinity War.
And gosh darn it, I'm so excited.
I'm here for it.
Yep.
I'm ready for our first 4-hour podcast. Woo! So that's it. See you guys later.
All right, yeah. Talk to you all then. Bye, everyone. Thanks. Bye.
Bye.